Beloved soul, I ask you to consider a question that may stir you deeply. What if the greatest danger to your peace, to your destiny, to your communion with God, is not something in the world around you, but something hidden, silent, moving within your very own mind? Men fear wars, they fear disease, they fear poverty and betrayal. But the most destructive enemy is often not external. It is the subtle habit of thought that gnaws unseen at the foundations of your inner life. Just as termites can eat silently within the beams of a house until suddenly, without warning, the roof collapses, so too the wrong mental habit can eat at the beams of your consciousness until one day your peace collapses, your strength falters, and your faith seems to vanish. You may look around and see no obvious cause, but the real cause has been with you all along. The dangerous patterns you allowed your mind to repeat, day after day, year after year. Yogananda taught that thought is not empty. Each thought is vibration. Each vibration creates magnetism, and each magnetism attracts conditions into your life. The thought you dwell upon today becomes the atmosphere you breathe tomorrow. Repeated often enough, it becomes karma, the invisible script directing your outer circumstances and your inner moods. So when you tell yourself, this is only a small worry, only a little doubt, only a harmless criticism, you are deceiving yourself, for that thought does not vanish. It sinks into the soil of your subconscious, where it germinates, multiplies, and in time springs forth as a forest of bondage. The danger lies in its subtlety. If someone offered you poison in a cup, you would refuse it at once. But if someone placed a single drop of poison into your drink each day, you might never notice until your health slowly failed. So too with mental habits. One anxious thought seems harmless, one doubt seems natural, one restless worry seems excusable. But repeated silently, they accumulate until they weaken the entire system of your mind and soul. This is why Yogananda raised his voice in warning, not against a single fleeting thought, but against the unconscious acceptance of destructive cycles of thinking. Beloved one, you must awaken to this truth. The greatest dangers are not always loud or obvious. They are often quiet, dressed in the clothing of habit, slipping by unnoticed while you believe yourself safe. Just as a householder must inspect his beams for hidden decay, so too must the seeker inspect his mind for hidden termites of thought. Otherwise, you will one day wonder why peace eludes you, why joy slips away, why God feels distant, not realizing that you yourself have been nurturing the very vibrations that veil him. Therefore, let this moment be your awakening. Do not dismiss your mental habits as insignificant. Do not underestimate the power of vibration. Recognize that the silent patterns of worry, doubt, criticism, or restlessness are not companions but thieves, stealing from you the treasure of divine peace. Beware them, recognize them, and prepare, for we shall now name the most dangerous habit and unveil why it is the unseen enemy of your soul's freedom. Beloved one, having awakened to the realization that the unseen enemy is within, let us now give it its true name. Yogananda again and again cautioned against the restless habit of negative thought cycles, those repeated vibrations of worry, doubt, self-condemnation, and ceaseless criticism that spin endlessly in the mind, like a wheel that never stops turning. This is the dangerous mental habit you must beware. For unlike a single fleeting thought that passes like a bird across the sky, these cycles are like vultures circling above, returning again and again until the atmosphere of your consciousness is darkened. What makes them dangerous is not merely their content, but their persistence, their repetitive pull that engraves grooves into the subconscious. The mind falls into those grooves automatically, until one day you are no longer choosing your thoughts, but being dragged by them, as though shackled by invisible chains. Consider how often the mind circles around the same anxieties: the bill that must be paid, the relationship that failed, the insult that stung, the fear of tomorrow. You think you have moved on, but the thought returns, like a wheel turning through the same ruts of the road. Each revolution deepens the rut, until soon the wheel cannot leave it at all. This is how worry becomes habit, how doubt becomes nature, how negativity becomes identity. And because thought is vibration, each cycle sends out waves of disharmony into the ether, which return to you as conditions, drawing to you the very things you fear or despise. In this way, the mind becomes both jailer and prisoner, creating the bars and then lamenting its captivity. Yogananda compared these mental poisons to slow and steady doses of poison taken without awareness. You may think, it is only a little doubt, or it is only a little worry, and dismiss it. But imagine drinking a small amount of poison every day. You may not die instantly, but over time the body weakens, diseases appear, life force ebbs. In the same way, these thought cycles consume the vitality of the soul. They drain your will, sap your joy, dim your intuition, and blind you to God's ever-present light. And because they are subtle, you often do not recognize their danger until much harm has been done. This is why you must learn to name it. Until a habit is named, it hides in the shadows. When you recognize it as restless, negative thought cycles, when you call it what it is, a dangerous mental pattern, you strip it of its disguise. No longer can it pretend to be normal, inevitable, or harmless. You see it for what it is, the ego's subtle agreement to remain in bondage. And once you have named it, you are ready to understand why it is so dangerous, not only for your peace of mind, but for your spiritual destiny itself. Beloved one, now that the mask has been torn away and the habit has been named, we must peer deeply into its spiritual consequences, for these are far more serious than mere moods or passing discomforts. The restless cycle of negative thoughts is not simply unpleasant, it is a veil that thickens between your soul and God. Remember this eternal truth: thought is vibration, vibration creates magnetism, magnetism draws experience. When your mind dwells habitually in worry, doubt, or criticism, you are vibrating with a frequency that attracts its likeness from the vast storehouse of the universe. Like calls to like. A mind restless with fear attracts circumstances that confirm fear. A heart clouded by suspicion draws people who reinforce suspicion. A soul vibrating with self-condemnation pulls to itself further experiences that echo the belief in unworthiness. Thus, the habit perpetuates itself, and what began as a thought becomes destiny. This is why Yogananda declared with such force, "Your environment is the result of your habitual thinking." How profound is this statement? Many look to fate, to society, to chance, blaming outer conditions for their suffering, not realizing that they have magnetized those very conditions by the constant vibration of their own thoughts. The restlessness of mind does not remain locked inside. It radiates outward like ripples upon a pond, and those ripples touch the greater ocean of cosmic law. God's universe is precise. It reflects back to you what you continually project. If you project light, light returns. If you project darkness, darkness answers. Imagine the radiant sun shining eternally in the heavens. Its warmth, its light, its brilliance never cease. Yet if you allow thick clouds of worry and doubt to gather, the sun appears hidden. You may even despair, thinking the sun has abandoned you, when in truth it is your own clouds that obscure it. So it is with God. His presence, His joy, His love are constant, but the habit of restless negativity draws clouds over the soul's sky, until you feel alone, forgotten, without guidance. Nothing has changed in God. Everything has changed in your perception. This is the most dangerous spiritual consequence, the self-imposed exile from the awareness of divine love. Beloved soul, realize how subtle and tragic this is. The enemy is not outside, it is within, convincing you that you are powerless, that you are cut off, that you are bound by fate. Each restless cycle of thought is a thread added to the veil. And as the veil thickens, you cease to hear the whisper of intuition, the gentle guidance of the inner voice. Negativity blocks the subtle current of inspiration, leaving you feeling adrift. You lose awareness of your eternal identity as a child of God, and instead you identify with the small, anxious ego. That is why Yogananda warns so strongly. Not because God abandons you, but because you abandon your own remembrance of Him through this dangerous mental habit. Therefore, beware. Every restless thought, every indulgence in worry or doubt is not neutral. It is a cloud thickening before the soul's inner sun. If you would walk in light, you must pierce those clouds, dissolve them, refuse to let them gather. Otherwise, the spiritual consequences will bind you, not because God punishes, but because vibration responds to vibration. Know this, beloved one, you are never meant to live under clouds. You are meant to live in light. And once you see how dangerous these habits are for your spiritual vision, you will be ready to examine how they also wound you on the psychological and physical levels of your being. Beloved one, having seen the spiritual consequences of restless negative thought cycles, let us now look with clear eyes at their psychological and physical toll. For the law of mind and body is inseparably linked. The thoughts you allow to dominate your inner world are not airy nothings, they are currents of energy, electrical impulses traveling through the brain, hormonal messages coursing through the bloodstream, vibrations that directly shape the nervous system, the immune system, and even the rhythms of your heart. Yogananda often spoke of the intimate connection between mind and matter, between attitude and vitality, between consciousness and health. A negative thought is not confined to the mind. It writes itself into the tissues. It imprints itself upon the nerves. It drains the reservoir of life, force that animates your body. This is why prolonged worry leads to tension, why fear creates exhaustion, why self-condemnation steals the sparkle from the eyes and the strength from the limbs. Picture the mind as a record, its grooves carved deeply with repetition. Each time you allow the needle of awareness to circle through worry or doubt, it deepens the groove, until soon the needle cannot escape. And what happens then? The same sad song plays day after day, a melody of anxiety, of self-pity, of restlessness, which becomes so familiar that you begin to mistake it for your true identity. The subconscious, which never sleeps, accepts these grooves as the program of your being, and even in your dreams it replays them. Thus, the habit you indulge in the waking state repeats in the sleeping state, robbing you of the restorative power of slumber. You awaken tired, for the mind has not rested. It has been circling endlessly through the grooves of negativity. Psychologically, this habit erodes confidence. Each negative cycle reinforces the illusion of powerlessness, convincing you that the future is hopeless, that the past is unforgivable, that the present is unlivable. The nervous system, constantly bathed in the chemistry of fear and doubt, becomes hypersensitive, like a harp with strings pulled too tight. A small incident plucks one string, and the whole instrument reverberates with disharmony. Anxiety rises, irritability grows, relationships suffer, and the ability to focus or create diminishes. The mind, meant to be a clear mirror reflecting divine truth, becomes a cracked glass distorting every image. Physically, the consequences are just as grave. The life force, instead of flowing freely through the channels of the body, becomes knotted. Energy that should nourish the cells is consumed by tension. The heart beats irregularly, the breath becomes shallow, the muscles clench unconsciously. Over time, disease may find fertile ground in this disordered vibration, for where the mind is restless, the body cannot remain unaffected. Science itself has begun to confirm what the yogis have long known, that stress, worry, and negativity weaken immunity, shorten lifespan, and invite illness. Beloved soul, see how dangerous this mental habit is. It does not stop at disturbing your prayers. It digs its claws into your psychology, your physiology, your very vitality. It robs you of joy, clarity, and health, leaving you a prisoner within your own skin. And yet the greatest tragedy is that the prison door is unlocked. You pace within, lamenting your fate, when all the while freedom waits. But before you can step out, you must see clearly how thoroughly this habit has ensnared you, and why you cannot afford to indulge it any longer. For to indulge is to drink poison, to carve deeper grooves, to weave tighter chains. To reject it is to begin the journey back to health of body, clarity of mind, and light of soul. Therefore, let us move now from the sobering recognition of danger to the luminous path of freedom. Yogananda did not expose this peril to leave you fearful, but to awaken you to courage, the divine courage that rises when you remember who you truly are. Beloved one, having traced the invisible claws of this dangerous habit through the soul, the mind, and even the body, it is now time to turn toward the radiant antidote, the law of divine courage. Fear, worry, and self-condemnation can bind only so long as you forget your true nature. The moment you remember, even faintly, that you are not the restless mind but the immortal soul, that moment the chains begin to fall away. Yogananda would often say, "You are not a mortal being, you are a child of God." These words are not mere encouragement, they are a spiritual decree. Fear evaporates when the soul remembers itself, because fear lives only in the ego. It whispers, "You are weak, you are vulnerable, you are destined to fail." But faith answers with the trumpet of eternity. "I am a spark of the infinite. How can death touch me? How can failure bind me? How can darkness extinguish my light?" In this clash of vibrations, fear has no chance, for faith is the remembrance of what already is the soul's eternal freedom. Imagine a prisoner pacing in his cell, lamenting his chains, believing that the walls are impregnable and the door forever locked. He spends years in sorrow, never daring to try the handle. Then one day, in a moment of grace, he touches the latch and finds it swings open. The cell was never secure, the chains never unbreakable, the bondage was only in his mind. So too with you. The negative habit convinces you that you are trapped, but in truth the door has always been open. Courage is the act of trying the handle. Faith is the realization that you were free all along. When you whisper, even silently, "God is with me, therefore I need not fear," you dissolve the illusion of captivity. And each time you affirm this truth, you weaken the grooves of negativity and strengthen the pathways of divine remembrance. Courage is not recklessness, nor is it the denial of life's struggles. It is the steady gaze of the soul upon God, refusing to bow before shadows. A shadow may appear monstrous in the dark, but the moment you turn on the light, it shrinks to nothing. So it is with every fear, every worry. They loom large only when you forget the divine light within you. Yogananda urged his students never to surrender to the downward pull of fear, but to look steadfastly towards spirit, affirming their eternal identity. For faith is not a mere emotion, it is vibration, a magnet that draws to you strength, clarity, and divine aid. Beloved soul, begin to practice this courage even in small things. When worry whispers that tomorrow will bring trouble, answer firmly, "Tomorrow belongs to God." When self-condemnation says, "You are unworthy," answer, "I am His child, ever free, ever thine." When fear insists that you cannot endure, answer, "With God, I can endure all things." Each such response is like a sword cutting through the web of negativity, freeing you thread by thread until at last the whole snare dissolves. The law is simple but unfailing. When fear is replaced by faith, vibration shifts, magnetism changes, and karma itself begins to unravel. Therefore, take heart. Do not tremble at the recognition of this dangerous habit. Rejoice that it has been unmasked, for now you can conquer it. Courage is not distant, nor is faith a privilege of saints alone. Both live within you, waiting for your call. And the moment you claim them, the clouds that once obscured your sun will begin to part, revealing again the radiant presence of God. This, beloved one, is the law of divine courage, to remember the soul's immortality, to affirm its oneness with spirit, and thereby to banish the shadows that never had power except by your forgetfulness. Beloved one, courage alone is not enough unless it is applied through action. The law of divine courage must now be embodied in daily practice. For habits are not broken by wishful thinking, but by conscious transcendence. The first step in this transcendence is awareness of thought, developing the power to watch your mind without being enslaved by it. For too long you have identified yourself with every restless current, as though every passing worry or criticism were your very self. But you are not the thought, you are the witness of thought. The mind is like a fortress, and thoughts are the many visitors who come to its gates. Until now, you have allowed all visitors to enter, both friend and enemy, without challenge. The dangerous habit has entered again and again because no sentinel stood guard. Awareness is that sentinel ever alert, discerning, refusing to let destructive guests cross the threshold. Imagine yourself seated at the gate of your consciousness, calmly observing what approaches. A thought of worry comes, knocking. Instead of letting it slip by unnoticed, you name it. This is worry, this is fear, this is the old cycle returning. In naming it, you create distance. Already you are no longer merged with it, you are the watcher. Then a thought of doubt arises. Again you name it, quietly but firmly. This is doubt. This is not my true self. Each act of recognition is like striking a match in a dark corridor. The shadows scatter, and what seemed overwhelming reveals itself to be insubstantial. This is why Yogananda urged his students to be vigilant over their thoughts, for only the watchful disciple can change the current of his destiny. At first, this practice may seem difficult, for the mind is restless, darting like a monkey from branch to branch. But remember, awareness itself is progress. Even if the monkey leaps 100 times, if you notice each leap, you are already free from being tossed unconsciously. Over time, the very act of watching slows the mind's restlessness. Thoughts lose their grip when they are seen clearly, for their power comes from the unconscious agreement you once gave them. Awareness withdraws that agreement. Beloved one, take this step gently but firmly. Each day, pause often, even for a breath, and listen inwardly. What am I thinking now? Is this thought raising me toward light or lowering me into shadows? Do not condemn yourself if you find many shadows. Simply shine awareness upon them, and they will begin to dissolve. Remember the metaphor of the sentinel. A guard does not hate the intruder. He simply refuses entry. So too with your mind, do not hate your thoughts. Do not wrestle with them endlessly. Simply observe, name, and choose. In this way, awareness becomes the first victory, the first transcendence, the first step away from unconscious bondage into conscious freedom. Thus, beloved soul, make of your awareness a lamp that never flickers. Stand at the gate of your mind as a faithful sentinel, calm but resolute, watching with clarity. For once you have mastered awareness, the dangerous mental habit can no longer sneak unseen into your fortress. And when you can see it clearly, you are ready for the second step. Substitution, replacing the false with the true, the shadow with the light, the restless with the divine. Beloved seeker, awareness is the sentinel that exposes the intruder. But once the intruder has been named, you must take the next step, substitution. It is not enough merely to observe a negative thought and say, there it is. If you leave the gate unguarded afterward, the same visitor will return, persistent and cunning. The mind cannot remain a vacuum. When one vibration is expelled, another must take its place. If you do not fill it with divine thought, the old habit will rush back to reclaim its seat. Yogananda taught that destructive ideas must be deliberately replaced with constructive affirmations, that worry must give way to trust, that doubt must yield to confidence, that weakness must be supplanted by strength. This is the second step of transcendence, conscious substitution, the art of tuning the radio of your mind away from the static of Maya and into the clear broadcast of spirit. Consider this. When a dark thought of fear arises, instead of indulging it, whisper within, I fear nothing, for God is with me. Say it not mechanically, but with deep concentration, feeling it vibrate through your nerves and saturate your being. When self-criticism appears, heavy with shame, answer with the radiant affirmation, I am strong in mind, body, and soul. I am a child of God, ever free, ever thine. When doubt gnaws at you, insisting that your prayers are unheard, answer calmly, the Lord listens even to the whisper of my soul. I am never alone. Each such substitution is like changing the channel of your inner receiver. Instead of continuing to listen to the jarring static of fear, you turn the dial until you hear the celestial music of divine truth. At first, it may take effort, for the hand is accustomed to leaving the dial untouched. But with practice, it becomes natural. Soon the old static ceases to interest you, and your heart longs only for the melody of spirit. Yogananda often gave his students affirmations not as platitudes, but as vibrational weapons. Each affirmation, when repeated with faith, rewires the grooves of the mind, planting new tracks where the needle of awareness may run. If the old habit was like a record etched with sorrow, the new habit engraves a new record of joy, strength, and calmness. Over time, the subconscious ceases to play the old song and learns to repeat the new. This is the science of substitution, not repression, but redirection, not denial, but renewal. You are not pretending the negative thought never existed. You are consciously replacing it with its divine opposite until the new vibration grows stronger than the old. Beloved one, this practice requires persistence, for the old grooves may be deep. But do not be discouraged if the negative thought returns again and again. Each time it appears, simply substitute again, calmly, firmly, faithfully. Each substitution weakens the old groove and strengthens the new. One day you will find that the negative thought arises faintly, like an echo, and your positive affirmation answers it with such strength that the echo fades into silence. This is victory. This is transcendence. Therefore, do not leave the mind empty after awareness. Fill it, charge it, saturate it with divine affirmations. Make the channel of your consciousness so tuned to God's presence that there is no room for restless negativity. In this way, the habit that once bound you becomes the very opportunity to practice freedom until substitution itself becomes second nature, and the mind turns instinctively toward the light. Then, beloved, you are ready for the third and most powerful step, to enter the stillness of meditation and breath, where the very roots of the habit dissolve in the calm waters of spirit. Beloved one, awareness exposes the enemy, and substitution replaces it with divine strength. But to uproot the habit completely, you must go deeper, to the very soil where thoughts take root. This is accomplished through meditation and the conscious mastery of breath. For restlessness is the fuel that feeds negative thought cycles. A restless mind is like muddy water, constantly stirred. It can reflect nothing clearly, and in its turbulence, shadows multiply. But when the water is allowed to settle, clarity returns, and the sun and stars are mirrored upon its surface. So it is with the mind. When breath is calmed, thoughts subside, and the soul begins to glimpse the still light of spirit. Yogananda emphasized again and again that breath and mind are twin currents. Restless breath sustains restless thought. Calm breath brings calmness to the mind. When you are worried, notice how breath becomes shallow, fast, uneven. When you are at peace, observe how it slows, deepens, becomes rhythmic. Therefore, to transcend the dangerous habit of restless negativity, you must learn to take hold of the reins of breath. Sit quietly each day, spine erect, eyes gently uplifted to the spiritual eye, and begin to regulate your breathing. Inhale slowly, feeling life force rise in the spine. Exhale with ease, releasing tension, releasing fear, releasing the burdens of thought. With each cycle, whisper inwardly, peace flows with my breath. God flows with my breath. In time, you will feel the current of prana, the divine energy circulating, soothing the nerves, dissolving restlessness, carrying you inward. As meditation deepens, thoughts that once seemed incessant lose their grip. They are like birds circling above a tree. When the tree no longer offers fruit, they cease to return. In the stillness of meditation, the negative grooves of the subconscious begin to fade, for they are no longer reinforced by restless energy. Instead, new grooves of calmness, joy, and divine remembrance are carved. This is not suppression of thought. It is transcendence through higher vibration. You do not wrestle with the darkness. You simply turn on the light, and the darkness disappears of itself. Beloved one, make this practice your sanctuary. Each time you feel the waves of worry rising, withdraw into breath and stillness. Even a few moments of calm breathing can shift the entire vibration of the mind, breaking the cycle before it takes hold. And as you cultivate meditation daily, the reservoir of inner calm grows so deep that negativity cannot disturb its surface. The mind that was once like a storm-tossed sea becomes like a placid lake, reflecting heaven. Then you realize that what you once thought was an unbreakable habit was only a surface agitation, powerless before the infinite depth of your soul's peace. Thus, awareness is the first step, substitution the second, and meditation with breath the third, the root solution, dissolving the restless currents at their source. When these three are practiced together, the dangerous mental habit loses all ground and the soul walks free. And now, beloved, let us turn to the testimonies of those who have walked this path, that you may be strengthened by their victories and encouraged by the living proof of transformation. Beloved one, truth does not remain confined to theory. It reveals itself in the living experience of those who dare to practice it. Many souls who once languished under the heavy weight of negative mental habits have found freedom by applying these very steps of awareness, substitution, and meditation. Their stories are not meant to exalt individuals, but to demonstrate the universal law. When vibration changes, destiny changes. When thought is lifted toward God, circumstances, health, and inner life are transformed. I recall how some of my disciples would come to me, their faces drawn with worry, their eyes restless with anxiety. One student in particular was plagued with constant doubt and fear. Each challenge that life presented caused him to circle endlessly in his mind, imagining every possible disaster, rehearsing failure before even attempting success. His body grew weak, his spirit weary, for he lived more in his fears than in reality. I told him gently but firmly, each time you feel fear arise, substitute it immediately with the thought of God's presence. Say, I fear nothing, for God is with me. Do not let a single day pass without repeating this, not as empty words but with feeling. At first the habit of fear returned again and again, but with persistence he noticed a shift. The same situations arose, yet his heart no longer raced with panic. Instead, he felt a calm courage stirring within. In time, his entire demeanor changed. His voice grew steady, his body stronger, his mind clearer. What had once been a cycle of negativity became a cycle of confidence and peace. Another devotee struggled deeply with self-condemnation. Each night she reviewed her mistakes, berating herself until she wept. This destructive habit robbed her of joy, even in prayer, for she felt unworthy of God's love. I taught her that guilt is useful only as a signal to change, not as a whip to be used endlessly against the soul. Each time you feel self-condemnation, I told her, whisper to God, I am thy child, ever free, ever thine. She began to practice this nightly, replacing the voice of accusation with the affirmation of identity. Gradually, her prayers ceased to be laments and became songs of devotion. Her health improved, her relationships blossomed, and most of all, she discovered an inner joy she had never known before. The dangerous habit of self-condemnation dissolved, replaced by a deep awareness of God's unconditional love. Beloved one, these are not isolated tales. They are proof of a law that applies to you as surely as to any other. Just as a wilted plant springs to life when placed in sunlight, so the soul, drooping under the shadow of negative habits, revives when turned toward the light of divine remembrance. Do not doubt this. If others have walked free, so can you. If others have broken the grooves of restless cycles, so can you. If others have felt God's peace replace fear, so can you. Their victories are given as encouragement, that you too may install within your heart the confidence that transformation is possible not tomorrow but beginning now, with the very next thought you choose. Beloved one, the testimonies of transformation are but stepping stones leading you into the deeper realization that the power to change does not come from the restless surface of the mind, but from the radiant center of the soul. To live from that center is to rise above the turbulence of thought, above the shifting sands of moods, above the voices of fear that once seemed so loud. The mind is like the ocean. Its surface is often whipped into waves by winds of desire, doubt, and worry. But descend a little deeper, and the waters are calm. Descend to the very depths, and there is perfect stillness. That depth is your soul's center, untouched by the storms of habit. The art of spiritual living is to anchor yourself there, to make of your consciousness a lighthouse, steady and unmoved, while the restless waves crash harmlessly against the rocks below. Yogananda often reminded his disciples that identity is the key. As long as you identify with the restless mind, you will be tossed about by its habits. You will think, I am worried, I am weak, I am negative. But when you shift identity to the soul, you begin to affirm, I live in calmness, I live in strength, I live in God. These affirmations are not inventions, they are descriptions of your true state, waiting to be realized. Repeated daily, with deep feeling, they install confidence like pillars in your subconscious, until the entire edifice of your life rests upon their strength. And then, when the winds of negativity blow, you are no longer moved. You watch them come and go as a witness, while within you the flame of divine peace burns steady and bright. Imagine yourself as a lighthouse upon a rugged shore. Around you, the sea may be wild, waves may crash, storms may roar, but the lighthouse does not tremble. Its foundation is deep, its light unextinguished, its purpose clear. So must you be. The waves of negative thought may still arise, but they break against your foundation without moving it. And your light, once steady, does not only protect you, it shines outward, guiding others lost in storm. This is the confidence of the soul. Not arrogance, not blind optimism, but the serene strength of one who knows his origin and destiny in God. Beloved one, begin to live from this center now. Each time you feel negativity stirring, remind yourself, I am not these waves. I am the still depth beneath. I am the lighthouse steady amid the storm. Repeat the affirmations. I live in calmness. I live in strength. I live in God. Let them echo until they no longer feel like effort, but like truth. In time, the dangerous mental habit will no longer find fertile soil in you, for your consciousness will be too steady, too radiant, too anchored in the infinite. And from that place, you will know what it means to live not as a prisoner of the mind, but as a soul free in God. Beloved one, to secure the victory of the soul over this dangerous habit, it is not enough to recognize it, to substitute it, or even to taste freedom in meditation. You must weave new patterns of courage into the very fabric of your days and nights. For just as a musician must tune his instrument before each performance, so too must you tune your consciousness at the beginning and the end of each day, lest the strings of the mind grow slack or discordant. Morning and evening are the hinges upon which the entire door of life swings. What you do in those sacred thresholds sets the vibration for all that follows. At dawn, before the world presses its noise upon you, rise with stillness. Sit quietly, spine straight, gaze lifted, and dedicate the day into God's hands. Whisper affirmations that set your magnetism. I am calm. I am strong. I am fearless. I walk with God. Let these words not be dry syllables but currents of feeling coursing through your veins, charging your thoughts before the first circumstance arrives. In this way, you create a shield, a vibration of light around you, so that when challenges come, they find no doorway into your mind. Even 5 minutes of conscious attunement at dawn can protect you from hours of restlessness later. Remember, the day does not begin when you step into activity. It begins in the silence where you align yourself with spirit. And in the evening, before sleep claims you, do not collapse into unconsciousness as though the day had no meaning. Instead, cleanse the mind of its impressions. Sit once more in stillness, reviewing the day not with criticism but with gratitude and offering. Whisper to God, whatever I have done well, I offer to Thee. Whatever I have done poorly, I release at Thy feet. Let no negative thought follow me into sleep. In this way, you free the subconscious from carrying the debris of the day into the night. You plant seeds of peace instead of weeds of worry, and those seeds will blossom as restful dreams and a radiant awakening. Evening practice is as vital as morning, for it prevents the grooves of negativity from digging deeper in the hours when the conscious mind rests. Beloved soul, these rituals are not burdens but anchors. They require little time, but they transform all time. They are acts of inner bravery. For each morning and evening you stand before your own mind and declare, I will not be its prisoner. I am the soul, free and fearless. Practice them faithfully, and soon they will become as natural as breathing, and their protective power will carry you through every storm. In this way, the dangerous mental habit loses its power, not only in theory or in moments of meditation, but in the daily rhythm of your life, morning to evening, dawn to dusk. Beloved child of the Eternal, now the circle of this teaching is complete. You have been shown the enemy that hides in plain sight, the restless cycle of negative thoughts that poisons the mind, weakens the body, and veils the soul from God. You have been shown its spiritual consequences, how it clouds the inner sun and attracts further bondage by the law of vibration. You have seen its psychological and physical toll, how it engraves grooves in the subconscious and drains the life force from your very being. And you have been given the antidote, courage born of divine identity, awareness that watches like a sentinel, substitution that tunes the mind to higher channels, meditation and breath that dissolve restlessness at the root, and daily rituals that anchor you morning and night. These are not abstractions. They are living tools, swords placed in your hands to cut the bonds that have chained you for too long. Therefore, take this final charge. Beware this dangerous mental habit, but fear it no longer. For what once seemed a tyrant is revealed to be a phantom, sustained only by your unconscious consent. Withdraw that consent, and it vanishes. Stand tall each day and affirm with the authority of your soul. No habit can bind me. I am a child of God, free in His light. Let these words be more than affirmation. Let them be decree. Say them with your whole being until their vibration saturates every cell, until even your subconscious repeats them in sleep, until every shadow within you bows before their radiance. In time, the grooves of negativity will be filled with the light of truth, and your mind will become a clear mirror reflecting only the image of the beloved. Visualize as I bless you now. The stormy clouds that once gathered in your inner sky begin to break apart. First a crack of light appears, then a widening path of blue, and at last the radiant sun pours forth in its full brilliance. That sun is God's joy, His peace, His unconditional love, and it has never ceased to shine. It was only your thoughts that obscured it. Now, by vigilance, by courage, by devotion, the clouds dissolve, and you stand bathed in the eternal light. Let no fear persuade you otherwise. Let no habit convince you that you are bound. You are free already. You need only remember it. And so I bless you, beloved. May your mind be clear as the morning sky. May your heart be fearless as a child in its parents' arms. May your soul stand anchored like a lighthouse unmoved by storms. May you walk each day in strength, live each night in peace, and awaken each morning in the radiant assurance of God's presence. Remember always, you are not your restless thoughts. You are the immortal self, forever free in the infinite. Walk in that remembrance, and the dangerous habit will never again have power over you. There exists a universal law so powerful that once mastered, it allows you to command the very forces of creation to manifest your deepest desires. This is not mystical fantasy, but a precise spiritual science that I have tested and proven throughout my life's journey, both in India and America. Every genuine miracle you have witnessed or heard about, whether healing of incurable disease, manifestation of seemingly impossible circumstances, or profound transformation of character, operates through this single principle. It is neither magic nor supernatural intervention, but the deliberate application of the highest law governing creation itself. What most people perceive as random chance, coincidence, or occasional answered prayer is actually the operation of this law, sometimes engaged unconsciously or haphazardly. When understood fully and applied with precision, it works not occasionally but with mathematical certainty, limited only by your understanding and spiritual development. Today, I will share with you the complete understanding of what I call the law of commanded energy, the precise spiritual mechanism through which consciousness shapes reality. You will learn the exact process through which thoughts and intentions are transformed into physical manifestation, and most importantly, the specific practice that allows you to harness this power deliberately. Many of you struggle with circumstances that seem beyond your control, health challenges, financial limitations, relationship difficulties, or obstacles to your deepest aspirations. You may have tried positive affirmations, visualization, or prayer with inconsistent results, leaving you wondering why these approaches work sometimes, but not reliably. Having taught this principle to thousands of students across both Eastern and Western cultures, I can assure you that inconsistent results come not from any flaw in universal law, but from incomplete understanding of how to apply it. When you understand the complete science of commanded energy, not just fragments of it, you move from hoping and wishing to knowing and commanding. What you'll learn today bridges the gap between ancient yogic wisdom and modern scientific understanding of energy and vibration. It provides both the theoretical framework and the practical application that allows you to work consciously with the same forces that create and sustain the universe itself. Unlike approaches that focus solely on mental techniques or that rely on vague notions of attraction, this method engages your entire being, thought, feeling, energy, and action in a unified practice that produces consistent, measurable results in your external circumstances. Most people live as if they were leaves blown by the winds of circumstance, responding to conditions rather than creating them. They see themselves as largely powerless against the greater forces that shape their lives, occasionally blessed by good fortune or cursed by bad luck, but essentially at the mercy of an unpredictable world. Even those who understand spiritual principles intellectually often struggle to apply them effectively. They may practice visualization or affirmation diligently, yet find their results inconsistent or limited. Others may pray fervently, but with an attitude of supplication rather than divine partnership, undermining the very power they seek to invoke. These approaches miss the essential understanding that human consciousness, properly directed, does not merely influence reality, it commands it. The universe is not a fixed, solid entity that occasionally yields to our wishes, but a fluid field of energy that continuously responds to the vibrational commands we issue through our focused awareness. The ancient yogic science of reality manifestation, which I learned through decades of study with realized masters and confirmed through my own practice, reveals that the relationship between consciousness and material reality is not incidental but causal. Your awareness is not simply observing a pre-existing world, it is actively participating in creating the world you experience. What makes this approach uniquely powerful is that it works with the complete circuit of manifestation, from initial thought through energetic projection to physical materialization. Many approaches address only one part of this circuit, which explains their limited effectiveness. The law of commanded energy engages the entire process, allowing you to work consciously with universal forces rather than struggling against them. In our exploration today, I will first explain the precise mechanism through which consciousness commands material reality, the spiritual physics behind what appears as miraculous manifestation. You'll understand why this process follows exact laws rather than operating through chance or divine favoritism. Then I'll guide you through the 3 essential elements required for effective commanding of energy elements that must work in harmony and that explain why partial approaches produce inconsistent results. This understanding will immediately clarify why some of your past efforts may have succeeded while others failed. Next, I'll share the complete 7-step practice for commanding the universe, a specific protocol that engages your entire being in the manifestation process. This is not a vague visualization exercise, but a precise spiritual technology that coordinates thought, feeling, energy, and action toward a single focused outcome. Finally, I'll address the common obstacles that block effective commanding and how to overcome them, the specific thought patterns, emotional habits, and energetic misalignments that often prevent people from fully harnessing this universal law. What might surprise you most is that the power to command universal forces doesn't require special gifts or decades of spiritual practice, though these certainly enhance its expression. The fundamental ability exists within every human being by virtue of your divine nature and requires only understanding and directed practice to activate. Like learning to play a musical instrument, anyone can develop this capacity through proper instruction and consistent application. Let us begin by understanding the spiritual physics that underlie the commanding of universal energy. This is not abstract theory, but the precise metaphysical mechanism through which consciousness influences and ultimately directs the manifestation of physical reality. At the most fundamental level, what appears to be solid matter is actually energy vibrating at specific frequencies. Modern physics has confirmed what yogis have known for millennia, that the material universe is essentially a vast ocean of energy, taking different forms. This understanding is crucial because energy, unlike seemingly solid matter, is directly responsive to the subtler vibrations of consciousness. Your thoughts are not merely passive reflections of your internal state, but active vibrations that extend beyond your physical body into the universal energy field. Every thought emits a specific frequency that resonates with corresponding energies in the cosmos. However, most human thinking is scattered, contradictory, and fleeting, which is why casual thoughts don't immediately manifest as reality. The key insight of yogic science is that sustained, concentrated consciousness creates coherent vibrational patterns powerful enough to organize energy into physical form. This is not merely metaphorical but literal. Your focused awareness actually arranges the energy substance of the universe into patterns that eventually materialize as physical circumstances, objects, and events. This process is similar to how a radio transmitter works. Your consciousness is the broadcasting station, emitting specific frequencies through your thoughts and feelings. The universal energy field receives these broadcasts and responds accordingly, manifesting conditions that match the frequency you have transmitted. Most people transmit weak, mixed signals that produce correspondingly confused results. The master of commanded energy learns to broadcast with clarity, intensity, and precision. I witnessed the extraordinary power of this principle when establishing the Self-Realization Fellowship in America. When we needed land to build our international headquarters, we identified a perfect location in Los Angeles that appeared completely unattainable. The property was not for sale, was valued beyond our financial means, and had multiple other organizations interested in acquiring it. Instead of accepting these seemingly insurmountable obstacles, I applied the law of commanded energy with absolute conviction. For 1 hour each day, I entered deep meditation and projected the specific thought vibration of this property already belonging to our organization. I infused this thought with the feeling conviction of accomplished fact rather than mere hope or desire, and projected this combined force through the spiritual eye with yogic concentration. Within 3 months, through a remarkable series of coincidences, the property owner unexpectedly approached us, offered the land at a fraction of its market value, arranged favorable terms that matched our limited resources, and expressed his specific wish that we use it for spiritual purposes. What appeared to others as an extraordinary stroke of luck was actually the precise operation of commanded energy properly applied. This manifestation process follows a pattern similar to artistic creation. An artist begins with a clear vision in consciousness, then shapes physical materials to match this inner pattern. The universe works the same way, with consciousness as the artist and energy substance as the material being shaped. The difference is that this creative process operates not just through physical action, but through the direct influence of properly directed thought vibration upon universal energy. It's important to understand that human consciousness can perform this creative function because it is individualized from the divine consciousness that is the primary reality behind all manifestation. You are not creating from nothing, but participating in and directing the same creative process through which the entire universe continuously comes into being. Your power to command energy derives from your essential nature as an expression of divine consciousness itself. Scientific evidence increasingly supports this understanding. Quantum physics has demonstrated that subatomic particles respond to the consciousness of the observer. Placebo studies show that human belief measurably affects biological processes, and rigorous experiments in consciousness research have documented the ability of focused intention to influence physical systems at a distance. These findings, while still being integrated into mainstream science, offer compelling validation of what yogic science has taught for thousands of years. With this foundation established, let us explore the 3 essential elements required for effective commanding of energy. Understanding these elements will immediately clarify why some manifestation efforts succeed while others fail, and why partial approaches produce inconsistent results. The first essential element is what I call charged thought. Ordinary thinking, even when positive, lacks the spiritual voltage necessary to command universal forces. Charged thought occurs when an idea is held with such concentration, clarity, and intensity that it becomes energized beyond normal mental activity. This is not merely positive thinking, but thought raised to a higher octave of spiritual power. Generating charged thought requires specific practices. First, the thought must be completely clear and precisely defined, without vagueness or contradiction. Second, it must be held with one-pointed concentration that excludes all contrary or unrelated ideas. And third, it must be energized through connection with the medulla oblongata, the seat of energy control in the body, located at the base of the brain. When thought becomes fully charged, you actually feel a subtle but distinctive sensation at the point between the eyebrows, the spiritual eye. This sensation indicates that your thought has transcended mere mental activity and has become a potent force capable of impressing itself upon the universal energy field. Without this charging process, thoughts remain too weak to command external reality effectively. The second essential element is directed feeling. While charged thought provides the specific pattern for manifestation, emotion supplies the power that amplifies this pattern and propels it into expression. Feeling is to thought what dynamite is to a blueprint. It provides the explosive force that converts plan into reality. The specific feeling required is not ordinary emotion, but a particular spiritual sentiment that combines absolute conviction, joyful expectation, and gratitude for the already accomplished manifestation. This feeling quality must be cultivated deliberately, as it usually doesn't arise spontaneously until after physical manifestation occurs. The yogic science teaches specific techniques for generating this manifestation quality feeling. One effective approach is to recall the distinct emotional signature of previous experiences when something wonderful manifested unexpectedly in your life, that unique blend of surprise, joy, gratitude, and fulfillment. By deliberately recreating this feeling while holding your charged thought, you create a powerful combination that dramatically accelerates manifestation. Without this feeling element, even well-charged thoughts may manifest slowly or incompletely. This explains why some people can visualize outcomes clearly, yet see little concrete result. They have developed the thought component, but neglected the essential feeling amplifier that gives thought its manifestation power. The third essential element is energetic projection. This is perhaps the least understood aspect of effective commanding, yet it is crucial for consistent results. Even charged thought combined with appropriate feeling remains largely within your personal energy field until deliberately projected into the universal field where manifestation occurs. This projection happens through a specific use of the life force or prana, directed through the spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows that serves as the broadcasting antenna of consciousness. The technique involves drawing energy up the spine to this point, while maintaining complete focus on the charged thought infused with directed feeling, then projecting this combined force outward with the intention of impressing it upon universal consciousness. This projection technique comes from ancient Raja Yoga practices and creates what might be called a spiritual transmission that dramatically accelerates the manifestation process. Without proper projection, your creative thought-feeling energy may remain trapped within your personal aura, creating inner experience but limited external result. These three elements, charged thought, directed feeling, and energetic projection, form a triune power that must work in harmony for effective commanding of universal energy. Many approaches to manifestation emphasize one or two of these elements while neglecting the others, which explains their inconsistent results. Let me share an example that demonstrates the remarkable power of these three elements working together. A devoted disciple once came to me deeply distressed because her mother had been diagnosed with a life-threatening condition requiring immediate surgery, yet was too weak to survive the procedure. Medical experts had essentially pronounced the situation hopeless. I guided this disciple in applying the triune power of commanded energy. First, we formulated a precisely charged thought of her mother in perfect health, functioning normally, not vague wishes for improvement, but a specific vision of complete restoration. Next, we generated the feeling quality of gratitude and joy as if this healing had already occurred, combining absolute conviction with spiritual enthusiasm. Finally, I taught her the yogic technique for projecting this combined thought-feeling force through the spiritual eye into universal consciousness. She practiced this unified approach for 3 concentrated periods daily. Within 5 days, her mother's condition began improving so dramatically that doctors were astonished. Within 2 weeks, the underlying condition had resolved to the point where surgery was no longer necessary. The medical team had no explanation for this spontaneous remission, but it was simply the law of commanded energy properly applied through all 3 essential elements. I often explain these 3 components using the analogy of radio transmission. Charged thought is like the specific signal or message being broadcast. Directed feeling is the amplifier that strengthens this signal to broadcast strength. Energetic projection is the transmission tower that sends the amplified signal into the universal field. All 3 are necessary for effective communication with the cosmic energy system. Now that you understand the fundamental mechanism and essential elements of commanded energy, let me share the complete 7-step practice for applying this knowledge systematically. This is a precise protocol that, when followed exactly, coordinates your entire being, mind, heart, energy, and action in the manifestation process. Step 1 is preparation through stillness. Begin by creating both inner and outer stillness. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit with spine erect but not tense, and take several deep breaths while releasing all distracting thoughts. This stillness creates the essential foundation for effective commanding, as scattered attention produces scattered results. The key to proper preparation is achieving what yogis call the neutral mind, a state of alert receptivity free from both agitation and dullness. This differs from ordinary relaxation in that you maintain perfect clarity and focus while releasing tension. Spend at least 2 minutes establishing this foundation of poised attention before proceeding. Step 2 is energy centering. Once physically and mentally still, direct your attention to the medulla oblongata at the base of the brain, where the spine meets the skull. This point serves as the main switch for your life force and connects your individual energy system with cosmic energy. With attention fixed at this point, Practice the Hong Sao technique, mentally repeating Hong as you inhale and Sao as you exhale, feeling that your breath and this mantra are magnetizing energy to the medulla. Continue for at least 1 minute until you feel a distinct increase in energy awareness at this center. This energy centering is not a preliminary but an integral part of the manifestation process. It activates the spiritual voltage necessary for commanding universal forces and establishes the energetic foundation upon which the subsequent steps depend. Step 3 is formulation of the commanding statement. This is a precisely worded declaration of what you are manifesting, expressed in the present tense as an accomplished fact rather than a future hope. The statement must be absolutely specific, completely positive, and formulated for maximum impact on your consciousness. For example, rather than, "I hope to find a better job soon," a properly formulated command might be, "Divine prosperity flows through my life as perfect work that utilizes my highest gifts, contributes meaningful value, and provides abundant income of specific amount or more monthly." The commanding statement should be concise enough to hold in consciousness with one pointed focus, yet complete enough to include all essential elements of your desired manifestation. Formulating this statement correctly is crucial, as it becomes the blueprint that universal energy will follow. Step 4 is charging the command with concentrated thought. Bring your commanding statement to the point between the eyebrows, the spiritual eye, and hold it there with complete one-pointed attention. Exclude all other thoughts, doubts, or contradictions, focusing solely on your command as if it were the only reality. Apply the yogic technique of Jyoti Mudra, seeing your command illuminated by inner light at the spiritual eye. This combines visual and verbal concentration, dramatically increasing the thought's coherence and power. Maintain this concentrated focus for at least 1 full minute, feeling the thought becoming increasingly vivid and energized. Step 5 is infusing the command with directed feeling. While maintaining concentrated thought, deliberately generate the feeling quality of gratitude and joy as if your desired manifestation were already physically present. This is not pretending, but accessing the truth that in the causal realm of energy, your manifestation already exists in potential form. The specific feeling to cultivate combines the absolute conviction of accomplished fact with the joyful appreciation of divine blessing already received. This emotional quality catalyzes the transformation of thought energy into physical reality and provides the power that accelerates manifestation. Step 6 is energetic projection through the spiritual eye. While maintaining both charged thought and directed feeling, consciously project this combined force outward through the point between the eyebrows into the universal consciousness. Experience this projection as transmitting a specific instruction to the cosmic energy system. The projection should be performed with the attitude of divine authority rather than personal demand, the consciousness of commanding universal forces by virtue of your oneness with the divine source of these forces. This attitude of spiritual authority is essential for effective projection and distinguishes true commanding from mere wishing or pleading. Step 7 is the crucial alignment of subsequent thought and action. After completing the formal practice, maintain thought and action patterns that support rather than contradict your commanding statement. This doesn't mean constantly thinking about your desire, but rather living from the assumption of its fulfillment while taking any intuitive actions that align with its manifestation. This 7th step is where many sincere practitioners fail. They perform the formal practice effectively, but then spend the remainder of their day generating thoughts and feelings that contradict their command. Remember that commanding energy is continuous. You are always broadcasting instructions to the universal field, whether consciously or unconsciously. This final step ensures that your total consciousness supports your deliberate command. The complete 7-step practice should be performed at least once daily, preferably at the same time each day, to establish a powerful manifestation rhythm. For major life changes or seemingly difficult manifestations, 3 daily practice periods of 10-15 minutes each will accelerate results dramatically. I want to emphasize that this is not a mechanical procedure, but a living spiritual practice. While following the steps precisely, maintain the consciousness that you are engaging with the living intelligence of the universe rather than manipulating an impersonal force. This attitude of divine partnership honors the sacred nature of the creative process you are directing. Let me demonstrate the complete practice with a specific example. Imagine you seek to manifest improved health and vitality. You would begin with physical and mental stillness, then center your energy at the medulla oblongata using the Hong Sao technique. Next, you would formulate your commanding statement. Perfect divine health flows through every cell of my body, creating vibrant energy, complete functionality, and radiant well-being. You would bring this statement to the spiritual eye with one-pointed concentration, seeing it illuminated by inner light. While holding this charged thought, you would generate the feeling of gratitude and joy as if already experiencing this perfect health. Then you would project this combined thought-feeling force through the spiritual eye into universal consciousness with spiritual authority. Finally, you would align your subsequent thoughts and actions with this command, living from the assumption of radiant health rather than focusing on symptoms or limitations. A student applied exactly this approach to a chronic condition that had resisted medical treatment for years. After 3 weeks of diligent practice, she experienced significant improvement, and within 3 months, the condition had resolved completely. Her physician, amazed by the transformation, could offer no medical explanation for the healing, yet it was simply the law of commanded energy systematically applied. I often describe the properly formulated and projected command as a cosmic telegram sent to universal intelligence. Like any effective communication, it must be clear, properly addressed, and transmitted with sufficient power to reach its destination. The 7-step practice ensures that your cosmic telegram contains precise instructions, carries adequate energy for delivery, and reaches the universal consciousness that will execute your command. Now, let us address the common obstacles that block effective commanding and how to overcome them. Understanding these impediments is essential because the law of commanded energy operates with mathematical precision if you are not experiencing desired results. Specific factors are interfering with the process. The first and perhaps most common obstacle is conflicting thought patterns. Most people attempt to command specific outcomes while simultaneously holding thoughts that directly contradict their command. For example, someone might perform the manifestation practice for financial abundance while maintaining underlying beliefs about money being scarce, difficult to obtain, or spiritually suspect. These conflicting thought patterns create contradictory instructions to the universal field, like trying to drive with one foot on the accelerator and the other on the brake. The solution is systematic thought training that identifies and transforms contradictory beliefs, aligning your entire thought system with your conscious commands. A practical approach to resolving thought conflicts is the practice of thought witnessing, observing your habitual thought patterns with detached awareness, particularly noticing thoughts that contradict your commanding statements. Once identified, these contrary thoughts can be systematically replaced through affirmation, visualization, and energy work until your thought system achieves coherence. The second major obstacle is subconscious resistance. Even when conscious thoughts are aligned with your command, subconscious patterns may create powerful counterforces that undermine manifestation. These hidden resistances often relate to unworthiness, fear of change, or conflicting values and commitments. Addressing subconscious resistance requires specific yogic practices that access deeper levels of awareness. One effective approach is to perform your commanding practice in a state of deep meditation, when consciousness can more easily harmonize subconscious patterns. Another powerful technique is to engage the superconscious mind through intuitive guidance, asking directly, "Is there any part of me that resists this manifestation?" Then listening receptively for insight. I guided a student who diligently practiced commanding financial abundance, yet experienced minimal results. Through meditative inquiry, she discovered a subconscious vow of poverty taken in a previous lifetime as a monk, still operating powerfully in her present consciousness. Once this hidden pattern was brought to awareness and released through specific energy techniques, her financial manifestations began occurring rapidly. The third significant obstacle is energy depletion. Commanding universal forces requires substantial spiritual energy, or prana. Many sincere practitioners maintain clear thought patterns and resolve subconscious conflicts, yet lack sufficient energy to project their commands effectively into the universal field. This energy deficiency may result from physical factors like poor diet, insufficient sleep, or excessive stress. More often, it stems from subtle energy leakages through scattered attention, emotional reactivity, or excessive engagement with draining people and environments. The solution involves both energy conservation and energy generation. Pranayama techniques like the energization exercises I developed specifically for Westerners can dramatically increase your available energy. Additionally, practices that conserve energy, such as maintaining emotional equilibrium, focusing attention efficiently, and creating appropriate boundaries in relationships, ensure that your spiritual battery remains fully charged for effective commanding. The fourth obstacle involves the role of divine alignment and surrender within the commanding process. Some practitioners approach manifestation with a strictly personal will, or even an attitude of trying to bend the universe to their desires. This approach creates resistance within universal consciousness and often blocks or distorts results. True commanding operates not through personal will alone, but through divine will expressing through your individualized consciousness. This requires maintaining the delicate balance between focused intention and spiritual surrender, directing energy with clarity and power, while remaining open to divine wisdom regarding the form and timing of manifestation. I often use the garden metaphor to explain this balance. The effective manifester is like a wise gardener who plants specific seeds, commands, with proper technique, tends them diligently, yet remains flexible about exactly how they grow and open to guidance about optimal cultivation methods. This combines directed intention with spiritual receptivity in the most effective partnership. One of my early experiences in America illustrates this principle perfectly. When establishing our work in the West, I encountered seemingly insurmountable obstacles, cultural misunderstanding, financial limitations, and entrenched skepticism toward Eastern spiritual practices. I applied the law of commanded energy with absolute focus yet complete surrender, affirming, "Divine wisdom now expresses perfectly through this work, manifesting all necessary resources and openings in divine timing and divine way." This approach of commanding with spiritual authority while remaining surrendered to higher wisdom resulted in remarkable manifestations that often came through unexpected channels and unusual timing. Opportunities, resources, and supportive individuals appeared in ways I could not have specifically envisioned, yet perfectly matched the essence of my command. The electricity circuit analogy helps understand how these four obstacles affect manifestation. Conflicting thought patterns create short circuits that divert manifestation energy. Subconscious resistance acts as a circuit breaker that interrupts energy flow. Energy depletion resembles insufficient voltage that prevents the system from functioning optimally. And lack of divine alignment creates resistance in the circuit that impedes smooth energy transmission. By systematically addressing each potential obstacle, you create a clean, high-functioning circuit for the law of commanded energy to operate through your consciousness. This doesn't guarantee that every command will manifest exactly as visualized divine wisdom. Sometimes delivers the essence of your desire in forms better than you could have imagined, but it ensures that the manifestation process works consistently and effectively. As we conclude our exploration of this profound spiritual law, I want to emphasize that the power to command universal forces is not separate from divine consciousness, but is its natural expression through you. You are not stealing fire from the gods or manipulating reality against its will, but participating consciously in the same creative process through which the entire cosmos continuously manifests. The law of commanded energy represents your birthright as a spiritual being temporarily expressing through human form. It is not to be approached with ego or used for purposes that conflict with universal harmony, for such application creates the very obstacles that prevent its effective operation. Rather, it functions most powerfully when your desires align with your highest purpose and the greater good of all. Begin practicing this method exactly as I have outlined it first, with smaller manifestations to build your confidence and skill, then gradually applying it to more significant areas of your life. Like any worthwhile ability, commanding universal energy improves with understanding and application. Each successful manifestation strengthens both your skill and your faith in the process. Remember that you are never working alone. Your individualized consciousness remains eternally connected to the infinite consciousness from which it emerged. When you command energy through the method I have shared, you are engaging not just your own limited power, but the unlimited power of the divine expressing through your focused awareness. If you found value in today's teaching, I invite you to explore my video on the yogic path to unlimited energy, where I reveal how to maintain the high spiritual voltage necessary for the most powerful manifestations. This understanding perfectly complements the commanding process we've explored today and will help you overcome one of the most common obstacles to consistent results. Until we meet again, may you walk in the constant awareness of your power as a co-creator with the divine, commanding the universal forces with wisdom, love, and unwavering faith in the perfect law that governs all manifestation. People think every relationship is meant to be kept, but I must warn you, some bonds were never meant to stay. They are karmic traps, and they block your soul from rising. In this journey, I will show you why not all relationships are sacred, and why some, if kept, will suffocate your soul. You will learn how to recognize the ties that drain your energy, disturb your peace, and bind you to past karma. You will also learn how to cut them not with anger, but with wisdom and compassion so that your soul can breathe freely again. If you have ever felt trapped in a bond you cannot explain, this teaching will set you free. Think of your own life. How many times have you felt restless around certain people? How many times have you stayed in connections that left you drained, fearful, or smaller than before? Most believe they must hold on out of guilt, out of habit, out of fear of loneliness. But I tell you, holding on can be more dangerous than letting go. The truth is, not everyone is meant to walk with you to the end. Some are stepping stones, some are lessons, some are tests. When you understand this, you will no longer cling to what hurts you. You will see the hidden law of karma at work, and you will choose freedom over bondage. In this talk, I will reveal the spiritual warning behind certain relationships. We will uncover the hidden bonds that look like love but are truly chains. We will see why restlessness is the sure sign of a wrong tie. We will look at the karmic traps that repeat over lifetimes if they are not broken now. And I will show you how to cut these ties in the right way with compassion, with clarity, and with strength so that you do not carry their weight into your future. Along the way, I will share truths that may surprise you, truths that may challenge what you have been told, but truths that will open your eyes to the freedom your soul has always longed for. Stay with me, for this may be the very message your heart has been waiting for. Here's something most people completely miss. Not every relationship in your life is meant to be kept. Some are stepping stones, some are lessons, some are simply tests sent by karma. To hold on to every bond as though it were sacred is to invite suffering into your life. I tell you plainly, there are ties that will suffocate you if you refuse to let them go. And what seems like loyalty can, in truth, become bondage. Let me explain why this matters. The soul was created for freedom, for peace, for communion with God. True relationships support this. They give you calmness, they uplift your energy, they make your devotion stronger. False relationships do the opposite. They drain your vitality, they disturb your inner stillness, they bind you to restlessness. And restlessness, my child, is the surest sign of spiritual danger. I have warned again and again, restlessness is the root of delusion. If a bond keeps you restless, no matter how outwardly attractive it looks, that tie is not sacred. But here's the challenge. Many souls confuse familiarity with destiny. You think, I have known this person for years, so surely they must be meant to stay. Or you say, they are family, so I must endure no matter what. Or, they are my friend, so walking away would be wrong. But longevity does not equal sacredness. Blood does not guarantee blessing. A tie is sacred not because of who it is with, but because of what it does to your soul. If it brings you closer to God, it is divine. If it pulls you away from God, it is a chain. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a traveler carrying water. One friend hands him a clean jug of cool water, refreshing him for the road. Another hands him a jug filled with poison. Both are jugs, both are relationships, but one sustains him while the other destroys him. Would it be loyalty to drink from both, simply because both are offered? No, it would be folly. In the same way, wisdom is knowing which relationships to drink deeply from and which to set down before they poison your spirit. Even in my own life, I saw how dangerous it is to cling to wrong ties. In man's eternal quest, I warned, when a soul clings to relationships that breed restlessness, they cannot hear God's whisper. Their meditation becomes shallow, their mind is filled with turmoil, their heart is restless. And restlessness is the enemy of realization. That is why I tell you, if a tie brings constant disturbance, you must see it for what it is. not a blessing, but a warning. This may sound harsh, but it is truth spoken in compassion. For I do not want you to suffer needlessly. I want you to see clearly. Not all relationships are sacred. Some are karmic debts that have already been paid, but you continue holding on. Some are lessons you have already learned, but you keep repeating them. Some are tests you are failing because you refuse to walk away. And every moment you cling to what has finished its purpose, you are delaying the freedom that waits for you. So take this to heart. Sacred ties bring calmness. False ties bring restlessness. One lifts you, the other drains you. One opens the gate to God, the other locks it. Which will you choose? Transition. Now that you see the truth that not all bonds are holy, it becomes urgent to recognize the signs. How do you know if a relationship is truly life-giving, or if it is secretly suffocating your soul? Let us step deeper and uncover the warning marks of spiritually dangerous ties. Now that you understand not all relationships are sacred, the next question naturally rises. How do you recognize the dangerous ones? How can you know when a bond that appears to be love is in truth a chain, when what looks like friendship is in fact a subtle trap of karma? Here is the great test, simple but profound. Look at the fruit it bears in your soul. A true relationship always leaves you with peace. Even if there are struggles, even if there are storms, beneath it all there is a quiet center, a sense of growth, a fragrance of calmness that lets you breathe deeply. A false relationship, on the other hand, never leaves you rested. It leaves you drained, anxious, restless, always questioning your worth, always uneasy in your heart. This restlessness is the surest sign that the tie is not of God. Think about it carefully. How do you feel after spending time with someone? Do you feel lighter, or do you feel heavier? Do you feel inspired toward devotion, or distracted from it? Do you feel your heart expanding with compassion, or do you feel it shrinking with fear, jealousy, or insecurity? These are not small questions. They are the very litmus test of whether a relationship is sacred or dangerous. For God's ties bring you closer to the light. The wrong ties pull you deeper into shadow. Let me give you an image. A healthy tree. If you sit beneath it, it gives you shade from the sun. It offers you fruit when you are hungry. Its very presence refreshes you. That is a sacred relationship. But imagine a diseased tree, hollow at the core. If you sit beneath it, it gives you no comfort. Its branches may fall on you without warning. Its fruit, if any, poisons rather than nourishes. That is a dangerous tie. Outwardly, both are trees. Outwardly, both may look green for a season, but the fruit and the effect reveal the truth. So it is with the bonds of your life. You must also be vigilant for another sign. Bondage instead of freedom. A sacred tie makes you more yourself, more free to love, more free to grow, more free to walk with God. A false tie restricts you, controls you, demands from you while giving little in return. It makes you afraid to be alone, afraid to speak truth, afraid to follow your path. And any bond that cages your soul in fear cannot be of divine origin. True love allows expansion. False love suffocates. Some will object, but is it not my duty to hold on? Should I not endure, no matter how restless I feel? Listen well. Endurance has value only when it brings growth. If it only breeds despair, then it is not endurance, it is entrapment. The divine does not want you bound in chains of suffering. He wants you free to walk with him. Even family ties, if they pull you downward, must be faced with courage. I am not telling you to abandon souls, but I am telling you to abandon bondage. There is a difference. Love them, yes, but love them in freedom, not in slavery to their restlessness. So when you look at your life, examine carefully which bonds uplift you and which bonds drain you, which ties make you restless and which bring calmness. Do not be fooled by appearances, by length of acquaintance, by obligation, or by fear of loss. The signs are simple: peace or restlessness, freedom or bondage, growth or decay. Once you see these clearly, you cannot be deceived again. Transition. But perhaps you ask, why do such ties come into our lives at all? If they are so dangerous, why does karma allow them to remain? Why does God not remove them instantly? There is a reason, a hidden mercy, even in these painful bonds. Let us look now at why karma keeps them around until their lesson is learned. Now that you see not every tie is sacred, and that some are marked by restlessness, bondage, and decay, you may ask, why then does God allow such ties to appear in my life at all? Why does karma keep these souls circling around me if they bring so much pain? Why not remove them the moment they reveal their danger? Ah, Here is the paradox, the secret that most miss. These ties are not accidents, they are teachers. They remain until their lesson has been learned. And if the lesson is ignored, if the awareness is not gained, karma will send them again and again, in different forms, in different faces, in different lifetimes, until the soul finally says, I understand. No more. You see, karma is not cruel. It is precise. Every wrong tie in your life exists because some part of your soul still has a debt to pay, a habit to break, a lesson to learn. Perhaps in a past life you chained someone else with control, and now you must feel what it is to be chained until you awaken to the futility of such bondage. Perhaps you abandoned someone when they needed you, and now you endure abandonment until you discover that love must be steadfast. Perhaps you mistook attachment for devotion, and now you must see how attachment suffocates until you choose the higher freedom. These souls appear as tests, not to punish you, but to awaken you. And once the awakening happens, the tie dissolves naturally, for its purpose has been fulfilled. Think of a teacher who gives the same test over and over. If the student fails, the test returns the next day, and the next, and the next. But when the student finally learns, the test is withdrawn. The teacher does not wish to torture the student, but to ensure that he grows. In the same way, karma repeats lessons through relationships. The same patterns reappear, the same arguments, the same heartbreaks, the same cycles, until the soul finally recognizes them as lessons. And once the lesson is grasped, karma no longer needs to send that test again. Awareness is graduation. This is why I tell you, do not run blindly from every difficult tie. Ask instead, what are you here to teach me? See the pattern, see the mirror, see the hidden law at work. And when the lesson is clear, when the debt is paid with understanding and forgiveness, you will feel a shift. The bond will loosen, sometimes in a sudden break, sometimes in a gentle parting, sometimes simply in the vanishing of your inner attachment. What once bound you no longer holds power. That is when karma has finished its work. Remember the story of the Buddha. He left his palace, his wife, his newborn son, not out of coldness but out of necessity. The ties of the palace represented his old karma, his old attachments, his old illusions of worldly security. Had he remained, he would never have awakened. It was only by recognizing that those bonds had served their purpose and that their purpose was now complete that he could walk away and seek truth. That departure was not rejection, it was liberation. The lesson had been learned, and the karma was dissolved. So too with you. If a tie still lingers, ask, what is unfinished here? What am I still clinging to? What am I afraid to face? Do not curse the tie. Bless it for the lesson. Learn it and release it. For once you learn, karma has no reason to keep that soul bound to you in this way. You will meet them again, perhaps in another form, but as free souls, not as entangled ones. Transition. And now that we see why these dangerous ties remain until their lesson is learned, the next question presses upon us. If not all bonds are divine, if some are chains disguised as love, then which specific ties must be cut for the soul to rise? Let us enter into this next great unveiling, the kinds of karmic chains that appear again and again, and how to recognize them before they suffocate your spirit. Now that you understand not all bonds are sacred, and that some ties linger until their karmic lesson is fulfilled, let me show you one of the most common and most dangerous kinds of chains, the drainers. These are the relationships that slowly siphon your energy day after day, leaving you restless, tired, and spiritually weakened. They may not always be loud or dramatic. In fact, many times they are subtle, hidden behind smiles, habits, or obligations. But their effect is unmistakable. When you are with a drainer, you feel less of yourself afterward, not more. Your peace is diminished, your mind is clouded, your devotion feels far away. And yet, because of attachment, guilt, or fear, you keep returning to them, as though thirsting for water but always drinking from a dry cup. Why are these ties so dangerous? Because they rob you of the very vitality you need for the boson, God contact. Every moment of your life, you are given a certain amount of prana, of life force. That energy is meant to be directed upward, to fuel your meditation, your devotion, your creativity, your service. But when you remain entangled with drainers, all that life force is siphoned off into endless conflict, into worry, into emotional storms. Instead of using your energy to rise, you use it merely to survive. And this, my child, is why I tell you, if you do not cut the drainers from your life, you will suffer spiritually, For you cannot serve two masters, God and restlessness. Think of it like a lamp. A lamp burns brightly only when the oil within it is preserved. But if a hidden leak is draining the oil, the flame grows weak, flickers, and finally dies out. A drainer in your life is like that hidden leak. You may still see the flame of devotion flickering, but unless you stop the leak, the flame will not last. You may ask, but how do I know who is a drainer? It is simple. Ask yourself how you feel after being with them. Do you feel uplifted, calm, expanded? Or do you feel anxious, small, weary? The body does not lie. The heart does not lie. Your restlessness is the alarm bell of the soul saying, this tie is not sacred. I myself warn my disciples, choose your friends carefully, for some will uplift you and some will drain you. In Journey to Self-Realization, I described how parasitic friendships appear kind outwardly but secretly feed upon your life force. They demand your time, your energy, your emotions, yet give you no true peace in return. Such ties are not friendships. They are karmic debts disguised as bonds. And to cling to them beyond their lesson is to waste the oil of your soul's lamp. But I do not say this to make you hard or loveless. No, I say it to make you wise. For the way to deal with drainers is not with anger but with clarity. See them for what they are. Learn the lesson they bring, perhaps patience, perhaps discernment, perhaps compassion, and then, when the lesson is complete, release them, bless them, but do not remain bound to them. If you continue to give your oil away to those who drain you, you will have none left for the light of God. And without that light, what is left but darkness? So I ask you now, look honestly at your life. Who leaves you weaker, not stronger? Who pulls you down instead of lifting you up? Who demands from you endlessly, yet never inspires your soul toward peace? These are the drainers. And until you cut those ties with compassion and wisdom, you will not rise. Transition. But drainers are not the only karmic chains. Some ties do not merely weaken you, they actively distract you, pulling you away from your path, laughing at your devotion, tempting you back into the shadows you have already escaped. Let us now look at this second kind of chain, the distractors. There is another kind of karmic tie that is more subtle than the drainer, and yet in many ways more dangerous. These are the distractors, the relationships that seem harmless, even pleasant, but that quietly pull you away from the path of your soul. Unlike the drainers, who leave you exhausted and restless, the distractors often leave you entertained, amused, or comforted in superficial ways. You may not even realize the danger at first, because you do not feel immediately weaker. But if you look closely, you will see the effect. Every time you spend your energy with them, your devotion to God grows dimmer, your meditation grows shallow, your seriousness about the spiritual path slips quietly away. A few days of their company, and you notice you have not prayed with the same intensity. A few weeks, and your mind has begun to crave their presence more than the presence of God. A few months, and you are no longer walking steadily upward, you are drifting sideways, or worse, downward. This is why I call them distractors. They do not attack you head-on. They do not demand your life force like the drainers. Instead, they lull you, amuse you, keep your attention fixed on the trivial, the temporary, the worldly. And while you are busy laughing at their jokes, gossiping over their stories, indulging in their endless diversions, you do not notice that the lamp of your devotion is slowly burning lower. One day you wake up and realize, I have lost my fire. I have lost my focus. I am still alive, but I am not awake. That, my child, is the great danger of the distractor. Think of a traveler on a long road. He sets out with determination to reach the sacred temple at the mountaintop. At first, he walks swiftly, his eyes fixed on the goal. But soon he meets a group of cheerful wanderers by the roadside. They are singing, dancing, laughing. They invite him to join. Just for a little while, they say. Rest with us, enjoy the songs. And he does. Hours pass, then days. He forgets the mountain. His legs grow sluggish, his mind dull. And by the time he remembers his purpose, the light of the temple seems far away, almost unreachable. Did the wanderers harm him directly? No, they simply distracted him. And in that distraction, he lost precious time, precious energy, precious devotion. So too with your life. Beware of those who laugh at your devotion, who roll their eyes when you speak of meditation, who belittle your yearning for God as strange or fanatical. Beware of those who tempt you back into old habits, who say, just one more drink, just one more indulgence, just one more evening wasted. These may seem like small things, but small things repeated become great obstacles. And soon, the soul that once longed for freedom is entangled again in the nets of Maya. I have seen many seekers fall at this stage. They began with zeal, their hearts aflame. But because they did not cut ties with the distractors, their zeal was slowly cooled, their flame smothered. And when I asked them, "Why did you fall?" they said, "I only wanted to be kind, I only wanted to belong, I only wanted companionship." Do not mistake kindness for compromise. You can love all souls, but you must not let all souls direct your path. If they lead you away from God, their tie is not sacred, it is a distraction, and it must be cut. So I ask you, who in your life makes you forget God? Who makes you doubt the value of meditation? Who laughs when you speak of devotion? Who encourages you to chase shadows instead of light? These are the distractors. They may not seem dangerous at first, but they are karmic tests. And until you recognize them, you will not see how many years, how many lives can be lost to distraction. Transition. Yet there is still another type of chain, one that does not merely drain you or distract you, but actively seeks to control you, to bind your soul in submission, to dominate your freedom. And freedom, my child, is the very oxygen of the spirit. Without it, your soul suffocates. Let us now examine the third kind of karmic tie, the dominators. Now we must turn to the heaviest of all the karmic chains, the most suffocating of ties, the dominators. If the drainer takes your energy, and the distractor steals your focus, the dominator goes deeper still. This kind of relationship seizes the very freedom of your soul. It is the bond where control is disguised as love, where possession is mistaken for care, where the sacred gift of your independence is slowly strangled until you can no longer breathe the air of your own spirit. The dominator appears in many forms: a partner who cannot let you be yourself, a friend who demands loyalty at the cost of truth, a family member who insists you must live only for them. Outwardly, they may speak words of affection, but inwardly they hold chains in their hands. And the tragedy is that many mistake those chains for safety, not realizing that the very love they cling to is the love that suffocates them. Why is this tie so dangerous? Because freedom is the oxygen of the soul. Without it, devotion cannot flourish. Without it, meditation becomes shallow. Without it, joy turns into duty, and love turns into fear. A sacred bond always expands you, makes you more yourself, more open, more alive. A dominating bond shrinks you, makes you smaller, silences your voice, erases your individuality. You become afraid to speak your truth, afraid to follow your calling, afraid even to think freely. And every day you remain bound in such a tie, your spirit grows weaker until you forget that you were born to soar. I've seen this danger in the lives of many seekers. They come with a sincere longing for God, but they are bound by a relationship that refuses to let them rise. A husband who mocks the wife's devotion, controlling her so she dares not practice meditation. A parent who clings to the child, smothering their freedom with demands. A friend who says, "If you love me, you will stay small so that I can feel big." And because the seeker confuses control for love, they endure it, thinking this bondage is loyalty. But loyalty that kills the soul is not loyalty, it is slavery. Think of a bird kept in a cage. The owner may feed it, may speak kindly to it, may even claim to love it. But if the bird cannot fly, is it free? No. Its wings were made for the sky. Its nature was created for the wind. And until it is allowed to soar, it will never fulfill its destiny. So too with you. If a bond cages your soul, no matter how kind it appears, it is not a blessing but a chain. And unless you cut it, you will never rise to the heights God intends for you. Even my Param Guru, Lahiri Mahasaya, guided his disciples with great clarity on this point. He lived as a householder, proving that spiritual life is possible amidst family ties. But he warned them, never let affection become domination. Serve your loved ones, love them truly, but do not surrender your soul's freedom to their ignorance. For true love allows growth, not suffocation. True love sets free, it does not bind. So I say to you, examine your life with honesty. Is there anyone whose presence makes you afraid to grow? Anyone who silences your devotion? Anyone who demands obedience at the cost of your soul's freedom? If so, know this: that tie is not sacred. It is domination disguised as love. And no matter how painful it may be, you must learn to cut it. For without freedom, the soul cannot breathe. And without breath, the spirit dies. Transition. But even when you cut the dominators, the drainers, the distractors, there is another kind of tie you must recognize, one that repeats again and again across lifetimes until you finally awaken. These are the repetitions, the karmic bonds that return in different faces but with the same lesson. Let us now uncover this final chain and see why the soul keeps circling the same test until it chooses liberation. There is still another kind of chain, one that often hides itself so well that the soul does not notice it until many years have passed, sometimes not until many lifetimes have unfolded. These are the repetitions, the karmic bonds that come back to you again and again, wearing different faces, speaking with different voices, but always carrying the same vibration, the same lesson, the same entanglement. Perhaps you thought you had freed yourself from a certain kind of relationship, only to discover that another person appears with the same controlling spirit, the same draining habits, the same distracting influence. And you ask yourself, why do I always attract this? Why do I fall into the same pattern? The answer is karma's persistence. Until you awaken fully, until you see the cycle clearly and choose differently, the lesson returns. The classroom of life does not let you graduate until the subject has been mastered. This is why some seekers feel trapped, as if life is playing a cruel joke on them. They leave one harmful bond, only to fall into another nearly identical one. They break free from one attachment, only to discover a new tie pulling them back into the same prison. But I tell you, beloved, this is not cruelty, it is mercy. For karma loves you enough to keep teaching, even when you resist learning. It refuses to let you stagnate. It repeats the test, not to punish, but to ensure you do not walk in ignorance forever. And once you pass, once you learn, the repetition ceases. The cycle is broken, the tie dissolved, the soul liberated. Think of a student who struggles with arithmetic. Each year he advances, but still he cannot add correctly. The teacher gives him the same problem again and again, 2 plus 2. The student groans, why must I always face this problem? But until he learns, the problem must return. Once he grasps it, the teacher never gives it again. Life is like this. If you keep meeting the same kind of person, the same kind of pain, the same kind of tie, ask yourself, what equation have I not solved? What lesson have I refused to learn? It may be the lesson of saying no. Perhaps in past lives you surrendered your freedom too easily, and so life keeps sending you dominating souls until you finally stand firm and say, no more. It may be the lesson of detachment. Perhaps you clung too tightly to those who drained you, and so karma repeats the cycle until you choose to let go with love. It may be the lesson of discernment. Perhaps you chase distractions, mistaking them for true companionship, and so life brings them again and again until you awaken to their futility. In each case, the repetition is your opportunity for liberation. But here is the danger. If you do not awaken, you will carry these repetitions into future lives. The same faces will return. The same dramas will replay. The same mistakes will entangle you again. And every time you surrender to them, the chains grow heavier, the lessons harder. This is why I say with such urgency, do not delay your awakening. See the pattern now. Break it now. Choose freedom now. For every moment you postpone, you are planting seeds that will sprout in another life, binding you again in the same sorrows you endure today. Do not think you are powerless in this. You are not. The very recognition of the pattern weakens it. The very decision to respond differently breaks it. Once you see clearly that a tie is only a repetition, you can refuse to play your old role. You can step out of the cycle. You can choose freedom. And when you do, the karmic bond dissolves, never to return in that form again. So I ask you, what ties in your life feel familiar, as if you have walked this path before? What faces stir both attraction and fear, as though you have known them in another time? These are the repetitions. Do not curse them, but do not surrender to them. Learn, awaken, and release them. And in that release, you will find a freedom more precious than any worldly gain. Transition. We have now looked at the 3 kinds of karmic chains, the drainers, the distractors, the dominators, and we have seen how they repeat until their lesson is learned. But knowing them is not enough. We must also understand the cost of clinging to them. For what happens when we refuse to cut these ties? What is the spiritual price of holding on when God is calling us to let go? Let us turn now to the next great truth, the cost of refusing freedom. Now, beloved soul, let us pause and consider. What happens if, even after seeing the truth, you still cling to these relationships? What if, out of fear, out of habit, out of guilt, you refuse to let go of the drainers, the distractors, the dominators, the endless repetitions? The first cost, and the greatest, is the loss of peace. And peace, I must remind you, is not a small luxury. Peace is the throne of God contact. Without it, you cannot meditate deeply. Without it, you cannot hear the whisper of the divine in your heart. Without it, every step you take is on unsteady ground. To lose peace is to lose the very foundation of your spiritual life. Most people do not realize how fragile peace is and how easily it can be disturbed. They treat it as though it were unimportant, something that can be sacrificed for the sake of maintaining appearances or satisfying obligations. But I tell you, peace is the rarest jewel of the soul. It is more precious than gold, more necessary than breath, more vital than health. For with peace, even poverty can feel rich, even illness can feel bearable, even loneliness can feel holy. But without peace, all riches taste like dust, all pleasures feel empty, and even love becomes poisoned with restlessness. When you remain in wrong relationships, your peace is the first offering placed on the altar of suffering. The constant conflict, the endless drama, the subtle energy drains, they stir your heart like a pond whipped by wind. Your mind becomes restless, your emotions flare, your body grows tense. And when you sit to pray, when you attempt to meditate, the ripples do not subside. The surface is disturbed, the depths are clouded, and the reflection of God cannot appear. How can the stars be mirrored in water that is always shaking? How can God's image shine in a heart that is never still? I saw this in the lives of many seekers. A man came to me once, full of sincere longing to meditate, but every time he closed his eyes, the restlessness of his domestic ties crowded into his mind. His wife mocked his practice, his relatives demanded his time, his so-called friends drew him into endless arguments. He tried to meditate, but his peace was stolen before he even began. And I told him, "You must choose. Do not give your soul's calmness away for the sake of empty obligations. Protect your peace as a lion protects its den, for peace is your only doorway to God." Think of a house filled with noise. If every corner echoes with chatter, music, arguments, you cannot hear the knock of a guest at your quarters door. But if the house is quiet, even the faintest knock is heard clearly. God is always knocking at the door of your heart. But if you let restless relationships fill your house with noise, you will never hear him. That is the cost of holding on the divine passes by unnoticed, because you were too distracted by the storm of false ties. So I tell you now, ask yourself honestly, what is disturbing my peace? Who, in my circle, leaves me more restless than calm, more anxious than uplifted? And then ask, is any bond worth the loss of my soul's peace? If you value your peace, you will not hesitate to cut what must be cut, for peace is not optional. It is the very condition of your union with God. Without it, you will wander endlessly. With it, you will reach him swiftly. Transition. But the loss of peace is only the beginning of the cost. For once peace is disturbed, the next danger follows quickly: spiritual blindness. Without peace, you cannot see clearly. Without clarity, you cannot discern love from attachment, blessing from bondage. Let us now look at this second cost of clinging to wrong ties. After peace is lost, the second cost of clinging to wrong ties is even more subtle, even more dangerous, because it blinds the soul from recognizing its own bondage. This is spiritual blindness, the inability to see truth as it is, the confusion of shadows for substance, the mistaking of chains for love. When your heart is restless, your vision is clouded. You begin to accept what is unhealthy as normal, what is suffocating as sacred, what is draining as duty, and the more you cling, the more blind you become. This blindness is not of the eyes but of the soul, and it is more crippling than physical darkness, because at least the blind man knows he cannot see, but the spiritually blind believe they are seeing while they stumble in delusion. Think of smoke rising from a fire. If the flame is clear and strong, it gives light. But if smoke fills the room, the light is hidden, and even the strongest eyes cannot see. Wrong relationships are like that smoke. They fill your inner chamber with haze until the flame of your discernment is obscured. You may even tell yourself, "This is love, this is loyalty, this is my duty." But in truth, it is fear, it is attachment, it is bondage. The sign of blindness is that you no longer question. You no longer ask, "Does this tie bring me closer to God?" Instead, you surrender unthinkingly, stumbling deeper into darkness. I have seen this happen to seekers with sincere hearts but clouded vision. One young devotee once told me, "I cannot leave this friendship, though it makes me restless, though it pulls me from meditation, though it fills me with fear. I must stay, for it is love." And I looked at him and said, "My child, that is not love. Love uplifts, love frees, love expands. What you are describing is bondage. You are blind, calling your chains by the name of roses." Tears came to his eyes, for he saw then that his devotion to the tie had been devotion to delusion. When the scales fell, he felt both sorrow and relief, for blindness once lifted reveals how long the soul has been trapped. The danger of blindness is not only that you mistake false ties for true, it is also that you miss the hand of God guiding you out. God often tries to remove these bonds from your life. He allows circumstances to create distance. He whispers in your heart. He even sends pain as a signal that the tie is not right. But if you are blind, you misinterpret His mercy. You say, "Why is this person leaving me? Why is this bond breaking?" And you rush to mend what God Himself is tearing away for your freedom. You curse the very deliverance He sends because you cannot see. This is why blindness is so costly. It makes you resist liberation, mistaking chains for safety and freedom for danger. Beloved one, open your eyes. Ask yourself, am I seeing clearly, or am I blinded by fear of loss? Am I calling attachment love? Am I clinging to a tie that God Himself has tried to remove? Do not wait until another lifetime to see. Pray for vision now. Pray for the smoke to clear, for the flame to shine bright again. For once you see truth clearly, even if it is painful, you are already free. The chain may still rattle, but it no longer deceives you. And once deception ends, bondage cannot last. Transition, and yet there is still a deeper cost of refusing to cut these ties, one that stretches beyond this life into the unseen future. For if you do not release them now, you carry their weight forward, into the next birth, into the next cycle of sorrow. Let us now open this final warning, the burden of karmic entanglements carried into future lives. And now we must face the heaviest cost of all, the one most souls never think about until it is too late. When you cling to the wrong ties, when you refuse to release what has finished its lesson, you do not merely lose peace, you do not merely stumble in blindness, you carry those same bonds forward beyond the grave, into the next life, into another round of entanglement. This is the law of karma, exact and impartial. What is unfinished must be finished. What is unresolved must return. What you cling to in this life will follow you into the next, until at last you awaken and say, "Enough." Many imagine that death is an escape, that the departure from the body is a final severing of all bonds. But death is not an escape, it is a continuation. The tendencies of the soul, the attachments of the heart, the debts of the spirit, they are carried like seeds in the invisible bundle of the astral body. And just as a farmer plants seeds into the soil, those seeds sprout in the next incarnation as new circumstances, new relationships, new entanglements. That husband you clung to in fear, you may meet again as a parent who dominates you. That friend you could not release, you may meet again as a child whose restlessness troubles your peace. That adversary you hated, you may meet again as a partner whose love is mixed with pain. Again and again, the same ties return, wearing new disguises, but always carrying the same lesson. Do you see now why it is so dangerous to delay cutting wrong bonds? Every day you postpone freedom, you are weaving threads into another lifetime's net. Every tie you cling to in blindness today becomes the chain that binds you tomorrow. Liberation is not delayed by God, it is delayed by your refusal to release. He waits patiently, life after life, but until you choose freedom, He cannot force it upon you. This is His respect for your free will. But, oh beloved, how much sorrow you save yourself if you awaken now, in this very lifetime, and refuse to carry the old chains forward. I remember teaching my disciples from man's eternal quest that karmic ties are not broken by running from them or by denying them, but by rising above them in understanding. If you simply flee in fear, you may avoid a person outwardly, but inwardly the attachment remains, and so the bond will return. If you hate them, you create new karma of enmity, binding yourself again. But if you learn, forgive, and release with love, then the lesson is complete, the debt is settled, and karma no longer has reason to bring that soul back in bondage. You may meet them again, but as free companions, not as chained adversaries. Think of it like luggage carried by a traveler. If the suitcase is heavy, every step is weary, Every mile is slow. And even if the traveler dies on the road, the luggage is not discarded. It follows him into the next stage until he chooses to put it down. The wrong relationships, the unresolved attachments, the clung-to bonds, they are the heavy suitcases of karma, and the soul, lifetime after lifetime, drags them forward. How long will you carry them? How long will you suffer under their weight? Do you not see that you have the power to put them down now? This is why I plead with you, do not postpone. Do not wait for another incarnation. Do not imagine you have endless time. For every day you delay, you are writing the script of your next life. You are planting the seeds of tomorrow's suffering. Break the chain now. End the cycle now. Release the bond now. Only then will you step into your next life, lighter, freer, ready to climb swiftly to God instead of circling endlessly in the same old patterns. Transition. And so we have seen the heavy cost of clinging, the loss of peace, the blindness of the soul, the burden of karmic repetition carried forward into future lives. Now the question arises, if the cost is so high, how can we cut these ties in the right way? How can we release them without hatred, without guilt, without fear? Let us move now into the art of liberation, the sacred way of cutting with compassion. Now, beloved one, we come to the turning point of this great teaching. For it is not enough to simply see that some ties are dangerous, nor is it enough to lament the cost of holding on to them. The soul must also learn the sacred art of release, how to cut the chains without bitterness, how to let go without hate, how to free both yourself and the other with wisdom and love. And the very first step in this art is the most important, discerning the lesson. For no tie comes into your life by accident. Every bond, even the most painful, carries a hidden gift. Every entanglement, even the most suffocating, conceals a lesson your soul was meant to learn. And until you discern that lesson, until you acknowledge it, you cannot release the tie in peace. You see, karma is like a wise teacher who never wastes a moment. If a person appears in your life who drains you, distracts you, or dominates you, it is not because God wishes to torment you. It is because your soul needed to see something it could not see without them. Perhaps the lesson was discernment to recognize false love masquerading as loyalty. Perhaps it was courage to stand firm in your freedom instead of yielding to control. Perhaps it was detachment to love without clinging, to give without enslaving yourself. The form of the tie may be painful, but the essence of the lesson is always liberating. Once the lesson is learned, the bond dissolves naturally, for its purpose has been fulfilled. But here is where most stumble. Instead of asking, "What am I meant to learn from this?" they ask, "Why must I suffer this?" They fixate on the pain and miss the wisdom. They curse the bond instead of discerning its purpose. And because they do not learn, the tie returns again and again until the soul finally awakens. This is why I say, bless every person who has brought you pain, not because the pain was good in itself, but because it carried a message from God. The quicker you learn, the quicker you are free. Think of a thorn lodged in your foot. It hurts, yes, but if you only curse the pain and limp in anger, the thorn remains and the wound deepens. If instead you pause, examine, and learn where the thorn is, you remove it and the pain ceases. In the same way, every painful tie is a thorn placed in your life. The pain is only there to draw your attention to what must be seen. Once you discern it, once you extract the lesson, the wound can heal and you can walk freely again. I myself practice this law in my own life. Even those who opposed me, even those who slandered me, even those who mocked me, I bless silently, saying, "Lord, thank you for showing me through them what I must see. Thank you for teaching me patience, for teaching me forgiveness, for teaching me to anchor in thee alone." And once the lesson was embraced, their sting lost its power. Their opposition no longer bound me, for I had taken the gift hidden within it. So I ask you now, instead of asking why a certain tie is painful, ask what it is teaching you. Instead of resenting those who drain you, ask what within you attracted that bond and how you can now rise above it. Instead of hating those who control you, ask what strength within you has been waiting to awaken through resistance. Every bond is a mirror. Every tie is a teacher. And when you see it this way, you no longer cling in blindness or cut in anger. You release with gratitude, saying, "Your lesson is complete. I thank you, I bless you, and now I let you go." Transition. Once the lesson has been discerned, the next step is clear. You must release. But here is the danger: many attempt to release in anger, in resentment, in hatred. And hatred creates more karma, binding the soul again. The true way is different. It is to cut not with bitterness but with detachment, to release the tie without rejecting the soul. Let us now unfold this second art of liberation. Detachment, not hatred. Beloved soul, now that you understand the first step in release, discerning the lesson, you must take the next and even more delicate step, learning to cut with detachment and not with hatred. For here lies one of the greatest pitfalls on the path. When the soul at last awakens to the truth that a certain relationship is draining, distracting, or dominating, the first impulse is often anger. How could they do this to me? How could they waste my years? How could they block my path? And in that bitterness, the seeker severs the tie violently, with resentment, with condemnation. But this does not free the soul. Instead, it forges a new chain, one made not of attachment but of hatred. And hatred is as binding as love when it is twisted with fear. The form of the bond may change, but the soul remains tied. This is why I tell you, when you release, release in detachment, not in animosity. True detachment does not mean rejecting the soul. It means rejecting the unhealthy bond. It does not mean ceasing to love. It means ceasing to cling. It does not mean turning away in hatred. It means turning inward in freedom. For the Divine Mother loves all, her children equally, even those who err, even those who hurt others, even those who wander in delusion. Should you not strive to reflect at least a little of her impartial love? If you hate, you only mirror the ignorance you wish to escape. If you detach with compassion, you mirror God's wisdom, and in that wisdom, both you and the other are set free. Picture a bird kept in a cage. You realize the cage is wrong, that the bird was made to fly. If you break the cage in rage, you may harm the bird itself. But if you open the door gently, blessing it as it departs, both you and the bird are free. In the same way, when you cut ties, do so gently, inwardly, with compassion. Open the door of your heart, say, I release you to God. I no longer need to hold you, and I no longer allow myself to be held. And as you do this, you will feel the chains dissolve without leaving scars of hatred. Many disciples once asked me, Master, how can I let go of one who has hurt me so deeply? And I would answer, do not let go in anger, let go in love. For love and freedom is not bondage. Love and detachment is not weakness. You can still bless them, still wish them well, still hold them in God's light, but you are no longer enslaved to their restlessness. That is true release. Remember, hatred creates karma. Detachment dissolves it. Hatred binds. Detachment liberates. Hatred poisons the heart. Detachment clears it. So when you feel the impulse to hate, pause, breathe, turn inward. Remind yourself, this soul, too, is a child of God. They acted in ignorance. They knew not what they did. I will not bind myself to them by hating them. I will release them by seeing them in the light of God, and in that light, I let them go. This is the way of freedom. So, beloved, when you cut ties, do not cut people. Cut only the cords of ignorance. Do not push souls away in judgment. Lift them up in blessing as you step free. For you do not need to prove anything. You do not need to punish anyone. The lesson is complete. The bond is finished. And in detachment, you walk away lighter, freer, and unchained. Transition. And yet, even detachment is not enough by itself. For the heart, once bound, carries residue. The old wounds leave traces. The old energies leave impressions. To cleanse them fully, you must not only detach but also transform the bond with prayer and blessing. Let us now look at this third step in the art of release. Ending every tie not with resentment but with sacred blessing. Beloved one, now we come to the most powerful step in this sacred art, the transformation of release through prayer and blessing. For even when you have discerned the lesson, even when you have cultivated detachment without hatred, the heart may still carry residues of pain, bitterness, or sorrow. A word spoken in anger may echo in your mind. A memory of betrayal may pierce you like a thorn. A sense of loss may linger in your chest like a shadow. If you leave these residues unhealed, they become seeds of new karma, ready to sprout again in the future. But if you transform them with prayer, if you dissolve them with blessing, then what was once a wound becomes a well of light, and what was once bondage becomes freedom. Prayer is the soul's cleansing fire. When you lift the person in prayer, when you place them in God's hands, you purify the karmic cord between you. You say to the infinite, Lord, I release them to thee. Bless them with wisdom. Bless them with peace. Bless them with freedom. And as you pray this, something miraculous happens. Your heart softens, your bitterness melts, and the invisible bond of resentment that tethered you to them is dissolved. This is why I urge you never end a relationship in silence alone. End it with prayer. For silence without blessing may still leave the cord frayed but unbroken. Prayer burns it clean. Blessing is the fragrance of love released without possession. When you bless someone, you are not saying, I approve of what you did. You are saying, I see you as a soul, a child of God, and I wish you freedom. In that blessing, you lift them from the narrow role they played in your life to the broader truth of their being, and this lifts you as well. For when you bless another, your own heart receives the blessing. What you send outward flows back inward, multiplied. This is the secret law. Hatred poisons both giver and receiver, but blessing heals both. Think of Jesus on the cross. As the nails pierced his hands, as his body trembled in agony, he did not curse his persecutors. He prayed, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That prayer was not for his sake alone, it was for theirs. It was the breaking of the karmic chain, the refusal to bind himself to them with hatred, the act of transforming suffering into blessing. And in that blessing, he revealed the highest path, the way of release through love. If the Master himself chose this way, should we not strive to walk it too? I have taught my disciples to do the same. When you feel anger toward one who wronged you, bless them silently. When you feel resentment toward one who drained you, lift them in prayer. When you feel sorrow for one who left you, say, May God guide you, may you find freedom, may you awaken. Do not underestimate the power of these words. They are not empty, they are forces, currents of light sent forth into the invisible world, and they reshape the karmic fabric between you. And remember, beloved, that prayer is not only for them, it is also for you. Pray, Lord, cleanse my heart of all resentment. Teach me to see only Thee in every face. Let no bond of ignorance hold me. Fill me with Thy love, which sets all free. When you pray thus, you feel the weight lift, you feel the air grow clear, you feel the old tie dissolve like smoke in the wind. Then you know you are truly free, not only outwardly but inwardly as well. So let this be your practice. Do not end a tie in silence. Do not end it in anger. End it in prayer. End it in blessing. For what you bless cannot bind you. What you bless is transformed. What you bless is released into the hands of God, and in those hands, no chain can survive. Transition. And yet, even after discerning the lesson, practicing detachment, and offering prayer, many still ask, but what will fill the space left behind? If I let go of this bond, will I not be empty, alone, unloved? This fear holds many back from cutting the ties they must cut. And here is the final truth in the art of release. Only divine love can fill the void left by human attachments. Let us now enter this final step, anchoring in God's love. Beloved, here we must face one of the deepest fears of the human heart, the fear of emptiness. So many souls hesitate to release the wrong ties, even when they know the bond is suffocating, because they are afraid of what will remain after the cutting. They think, if I let this go, who will love me? Who will stand beside me? Who will fill the silence? And so they cling to bondage out of terror of loneliness. But this fear is a shadow, not a truth. For the space left behind by human attachments is not emptiness, it is sacred room prepared for God's love. The soul is never meant to remain barren. When you let go of what is false, the Infinite Himself steps into the chamber of your heart and fills it with His presence. But if you never release, if you never clear that space, how can He enter? The room is too crowded with shadows. The beloved waits, but he cannot be heard above the noise of restless ties. This is why I say again and again, be with God first, then with others. If you reverse the order, you will always suffer. If you cling to people before you cling to God, you will find yourself restless, afraid, insecure. But if you anchor yourself in God first, every other bond becomes safe, becomes free, becomes harmonious. When you love God first, you no longer fear loss, because His love cannot be taken from you. You no longer fear solitude, because His presence fills the silence with joy. You no longer fear emptiness, because His light pours into every corner of your being. Think of the ocean and its waves. The wave that forgets its connection to the ocean feels small, fragile, afraid of dissolving. But the wave that remembers it is one with the ocean feels no fear. for it knows that behind its little form is the vastness of the sea. In the same way, when you anchor in God's love, you realize that every human bond is but a wave rising on the ocean of spirit. Some waves come, some go, some crash, some vanish, but the ocean remains. And if you are anchored in the ocean, you need not cling to any single wave. You can enjoy them, bless them, release them, knowing that the source is always yours. When you cut ties without God, you do feel empty, for you have removed a false anchor without planting the true one. But when you cut ties with God, you feel free, full, radiant. You sit in silence, and the silence sings. You walk alone, and you feel accompanied by an invisible presence. You close your eyes, and within you shines a light brighter than 1,000 suns. This is not imagination, it is the natural experience of the soul when it is anchored in its source. And once you taste this love, you will no longer cling to false bonds. Why drink muddy water when the pure spring flows freely within you? Why cling to shadows when the sun is shining in your own heart? I tell you, every saint has walked this path. Every saint has released human ties, not in hatred but in love, and found in that release the infinite embrace of God. And you too can walk it. Begin now. When you feel the ache of letting go, turn immediately to prayer. Say, Lord, I have released this tie. Fill the space with thy love. Let me feel that I am never alone. And if you persist, you will feel it. You will know it. You will be anchored in a love that no loss can break, no death can end, no time can diminish. So do not fear the cutting, fear only the clinging. For clinging keeps you restless, but cutting, when done with God, brings fullness. The space you dread as emptiness is in truth the sanctuary where God waits to enter. And once He enters, you will never again feel poor in love. Transition. And so, beloved, you have learned the steps of this art, discerning the lesson, detaching without hatred, blessing with prayer, and anchoring in God's love. When you master these, you are no longer afraid of letting go. You see every ending as a beginning, every release as a gift. And with this strength, you step into the next great truth, the freedom beyond bonds. Let us now enter this final section where the fruits of your courage are revealed. Beloved soul, now we arrive at the harvest, the sweet fruit that comes after the long labor of discerning, detaching, blessing, and anchoring. For when the chains have been cut, when the heart has been cleansed of false ties, when the soul stands free in God's love, the first and most precious gift you receive is calmness. And I do not mean the shallow calmness of a quiet evening or a pleasant mood. I mean the deep, unshakable calmness that becomes the very throne of God within you. This calmness is not dependent on circumstances. It does not tremble when others leave you. It does not break when storms arrive. It does not vanish when losses come. It abides, like a mountain unmoved by the winds. It rests, like the depths of the sea untouched by the surface waves. It shines, like the steady flame of a lamp protected from the storm. This is the reward of release, the restoration of calmness. For remember, peace is not something you create, it is something that was always within you, waiting beneath the restlessness. Wrong relationships stir the waters, they cloud the mirror, they shake the lamp. But when they are removed, the waters become still. Again, the mirror reflects clearly, the flame shines steadily. The calmness you feel is not new, it is the unveiling of your true nature, which was hidden but never destroyed. You were always calm within. You were always peace itself. Cutting the wrong ties only removes the coverings that concealed it. Think of a pond. When children throw stones into it, the ripples spread, the surface shakes, the stars above cannot be seen. But when the stones cease, the water grows still. And in that stillness, the stars return, mirrored perfectly. So too with your soul. Every wrong tie is like a stone thrown daily into your heart. How can you see God reflected there if the ripples never stop? But when you cut the ties, when you stop the stones from being thrown, the heart grows still, and in that stillness the infinite is reflected. That reflection is calmness, and that calmness is your doorway to God. I saw this countless times in seekers who dared to release what bound them. A woman once told me, "Master, I fear that if I let go of this tie, I will be utterly alone." I said, "Try it, trust God." She wept but obeyed. And some weeks later, she returned with a light in her eyes I had not seen before. "I am not alone," she said. "I am calm. For the first time in years, I can sit in meditation and feel God's presence. For the first time in years, I sleep without turmoil. For the first time in years, I am myself. That is the miracle of calmness restored. It is not loneliness, it is wholeness. Do not underestimate this calmness. It is not weakness, it is strength. A restless person is easily controlled, easily broken, easily swayed. A calm person is unshakable. No one can dominate them, no one can drain them, no one can distract them. Calmness is armor. Calmness is clarity. Calmness is the throne from which the soul rules itself. And more than this, calmness is magnetic. Others feel it when they are near you. They may not know why, but they sense safety, they sense strength, they sense something eternal flowing through you. This is why the saints are so irresistible, not because of outer charm, but because their calmness radiates God. So I tell you, do not fear the cutting. Fear the restlessness that comes from clinging. For the fruit of release is calmness, and calmness is the very condition for realizing God. Without it, meditation is shallow. With it, meditation becomes deep. Without it, the soul wanders. With it, the soul arrives. Calmness is not just peace, it is union, transition, and yet calmness is only the beginning of the gifts of freedom. For once you are calm, a new force begins to awaken within you, a hidden power that draws others without effort, that attracts blessings without striving. This is the magnetism of the free soul. Let us now unfold this second great fruit of release. Beloved, once the calmness of release has settled upon your soul like a steady dawn, once the inner waters are no longer disturbed by restless tides, a mysterious power begins to awaken within you. It is not something you force, it is not something you manufacture, it is not even something you consciously strive for, it is the natural radiation of your being when you are free. This power is magnetism, the silent attraction of the soul. Others may not know why they feel drawn to you. They may not understand why in your presence they feel lighter, calmer, clearer. But they feel it because the vibration of your freedom sings in the air around you, and the heart that touches it cannot help but respond. This magnetism is not the magnetism of the body, nor of clever words, nor of worldly charm. Those are shallow lights that flicker and die. True magnetism is born from inner stillness, from purity of heart, from union with God. It is the fragrance of the soul when the flowers of calmness and love are in bloom. You do not need to announce it, you do not need to prove it, you do not need to seek it like the fragrance of a rose. It spreads without effort, without sound, without proclamation. And just as bees are drawn to nectar without invitation, so are souls drawn to the one who has found freedom. I have witnessed this countless times. My Param Guru, Lahiri Mahasaya, lived not as a monk but as a simple householder, quietly fulfilling his duties. Outwardly, he appeared ordinary, working as an accountant, moving modestly among neighbors, but inwardly he was anchored in the infinite. His calmness, his realization, radiated like an unseen Sunday, and people from every walk of life, scholars, saints, kings, householders, were drawn to him. They could not explain it. He did not seek them. He did not advertise himself. His magnetism spoke more loudly than any words, and in his silent presence, countless souls awakened. This is the proof. True magnetism is not of the outer self, but of the God within. And here is the great secret. When you are free of bondage, your soul's magnetism increases. For bondage weakens you, makes you restless, scatters your energy. A chained soul cannot radiate freely. But when the chains are cut, your life force gathers inward, your calmness deepens, your aura brightens. You become like a mountain spring, clear, steady, refreshing to all who come near. And this magnetism attracts not only people, but also divine opportunities, guidance, blessings, for the universe itself responds to the vibration of freedom. When you are free, you move in harmony with the divine current, and that current draws to you what your soul truly needs. But I must warn you, this magnetism is not given to inflate your ego. It is not for vanity, it is not for manipulation, it is not for conquest. It is given so that you may serve. For others will come to you, drawn by your peace, and in that moment you must remember, this peace is not mine, this calmness is not mine, this magnetism is not mine, it is God's flowing through me. And with that humility you become a channel, not a barrier. You become a bridge, not an obstacle. And your magnetism becomes a tool for the divine to reach souls that might otherwise have remained untouched. So I tell you, rejoice in this gift. If you feel unworthy, know that the magnetism is not yours, it is God's presence shining through you. If you feel tempted to boast, Remind yourself, the fragrance belongs to the rose, not to the breeze that carries it. Stay anchored, stay humble, stay devoted, and let your magnetism bless all who come near. Transition. And yet, the magnetism of the free soul is not the final fruit. For once you are free, once you are calm, once your presence radiates peace, there arises a higher call. The call to use your freedom not only for yourself, but for the upliftment of others. For the soul that is free cannot remain idle. It longs to serve, to give, to guide. Let us now enter this third and crowning fruit of release, the joy of service born from freedom. Beloved, once calmness has been restored to your heart, and once the magnetism of your freedom begins to radiate outward like the fragrance of a secret garden, there awakens within you a new longing, not for companionship, not for recognition, not for worldly reward, but for service. The soul that is free cannot remain for itself alone. It looks around and sees countless others still bound, still restless, still blind, still stumbling through the same karmic entanglements it once endured. And in that seeing, compassion rises, vast and irresistible, until you say within yourself, I cannot keep this freedom only for me. I must share it. I must use it to guide, to uplift, to heal. This is the third fruit of liberation, the transformation of your personal freedom into universal service. Understand this well. When you were bound, your love was narrow. It clung to a few souls, it demanded from them, it feared their loss. But when you are free, your love becomes wide. It flows naturally to all, without discrimination, without demand. You serve not out of compulsion, but out of overflowing joy. You give not because you are empty and need validation, but because you are full and cannot help but spill over. This is why I have always said, the highest service is not born from duty alone, it is born from freedom. Only the free soul can serve without chains. Only the free soul can love without fear. Only the free soul can guide without hidden motives. Think of a boatman on a wide river. He himself is safe, his boat steady, his heart calm. But he sees others flailing in the water, drowning in confusion, gasping for air. Can he remain still? No. His freedom compels him to act. He rows to them. He lifts them into his boat. He carries them to shore. Not because he must, not because anyone forces him, but because compassion flows so strongly from his heart that he cannot resist. So it is with you. Once free, you naturally become a boatman for others. You do not even need to plan it. Souls will be drawn to you by your magnetism, and your very presence will be a service. And do not think service always means great deeds, public missions, or dramatic acts. Service begins in the smallest gestures. A kind word to one who is weary. A prayer whispered for one you may never meet. A moment of listening when someone pours out their pain. These are not small things, they are rays of God's love, carried through your free heart into the lives of others. And sometimes, the smallest ray can light the darkest night. The free soul does not ask, is this act great enough? The free soul only asks, how may I love now? How may I serve in this moment? I myself vowed to God, I will return again and again, as long as one stray brother weeps on earth, as long as one dark soul is left behind, I will come back and serve. That vow was born not of duty but of freedom. For in freedom, the greatest joy is service. You too can live this vow in your own way. You may not guide multitudes, but you can guide the one who sits beside you. You may not heal nations, but you can soothe the heart of a friend. You may not preach from rooftops, but you can pray in silence, and your prayer can travel farther than your body ever could. This is service from freedom, service that flows naturally, joyfully, endlessly. And here is the paradox. When you serve others in freedom, your own freedom deepens. For every act of giving expands your heart, strengthens your calmness, brightens your magnetism. The more you serve, the freer you feel, until at last you realize that your freedom and your service are not two separate things, they are one and the same. To be free is to serve is to be free. And in that realization, the circle of karma is broken, and you step into eternity. Transition. And so, beloved, we have walked through the gifts of freedom, calmness restored, magnetism awakened, service overflowing. But before we close, let us pause for one final reflection, one final transition, to gather all these truths into a single vision. For you began this journey thinking that cutting ties meant loss, but now you see it means gain beyond measure. Let us now prepare to seal this teaching with a final blessing, a closing affirmation, and a glimpse into the next great mystery that awaits you. And now, beloved, let us pause and look back upon the path we have walked together. You began this journey with the fear that cutting ties would leave you broken, empty, and alone. You clung to bonds because you thought they were your safety, your duty, your only source of love. But step by step, as we have unfolded this truth, you have seen with clearer vision that those very bonds, the drainers, the distractors, the dominators, the endless repetitions were the sources of your restlessness, the thieves of your peace, the blindfold over your soul, the chains that would follow you into lifetime after lifetime if you did not awaken. And in that awakening, you have discovered that to cut these ties is not to lose, but to gain. For what have you gained? You have gained peace, calmness restored like a temple within you. You have gained clarity, eyes that see truth without distortion, a heart that recognizes falsehood and refuses to bow. You have gained freedom, wings no longer clipped, a soul no longer suffocated, a spirit no longer enslaved to fear or guilt. You have gained magnetism, the silent radiance that draws others, not because you seek them, but because God's light shines through you. And above all, you have gained the joy of service, the discovery that your freedom is not for you alone, but for all who wander still in chains, so that your life may become a lamp, a guide, a boatman ferrying others across the river of sorrow. So, you see, you began this journey thinking that cutting ties meant loss, but now you see that cutting ties means gain beyond measure. To cut is not to destroy, but to free. To release is not to abandon, but to bless. To let go is not to diminish, but to expand. Every ending is a beginning. Every release makes room for a greater fullness. Every chain broken is another step into God's embrace. Therefore, do not fear the cutting. Do not hesitate when the truth is clear. Do not allow guilt, habit, or loneliness to deceive you into holding on. For the ties that are divine will never be lost by cutting, they will remain, purified, strengthened, eternal. And the ties that are false will vanish when released, leaving you lighter, freer, ready for God's presence to flood your heart. In this, you will discover that you have lost nothing and gained everything. Transition. And now, beloved, let us step together into the final blessing. Let us gather these truths into a sacred affirmation for your soul, and let us open a new doorway into the next great mystery that awaits you beyond this talk, the mystery of why certain souls return to you again and again, across lifetimes, as though you could never escape them. That, my child, is the next lesson. But first, let us close this one with light. Beloved, we have walked far together in this sacred journey. From the very first moment I warned you that not all ties are holy, you felt perhaps a resistance in your heart, a fear that cutting could mean cruelty, that release could mean loss. Yet now, at the end of this unfolding, you see with different eyes. You see that the bonds which suffocate the soul are not love, but chains. You see that restlessness is the surest sign of danger, that peace is the true test of divinity. You see that karma sends lessons through people, but never to punish, only to awaken. And you see that cutting ties, when done with compassion, does not destroy the soul of another, but liberates both them and you into the wider ocean of God's love. Remember always, wrong ties are costly. They rob you of peace, they blind you to truth, they drag their weight into future lives until the lesson is learned. But when you dare to face them, when you discern the lesson, detach without hatred, release with prayer, and anchor yourself in God's love, you discover the gifts of freedom waiting on the other side: calmness, steady as a mountain, magnetism radiant as a hidden sun, service flowing like a river of compassion. These are not small gifts. They are the very fruits of liberation. They are the treasures your soul has sought through countless incarnations. And now, in this very lifetime, they are within your reach if only you will be courageous enough to let go of what no longer belongs. So let this be your affirmation, the shield and song of your heart. I release every bond that dims my soul. I cut not in anger, but in love. I let go with blessing, not with bitterness. I am free, and in my freedom I walk with God. No tie can bind me but His love. No chain can hold me but His grace. No relationship can claim me unless it lifts me into His light. Say these words when fear comes. Say them when guilt whispers. Say them when loneliness threatens. And you will feel strength rising within you, strength not of your own, but of the eternal beloved who walks with you. And now, beloved, before we part, I must open one more doorway for you. For perhaps you ask, But what of those ties I have cut, yet they return? What of the faces that keep appearing in my life, no matter how far I walk? What of the names that echo across years, the souls I cannot seem to escape? Ah, here lies another mystery of karma, the bonds that repeat not only in this life, but across lifetimes. These are the karmic echoes, the returning companions, the unfinished chords of destiny that call you back again and again until they are resolved. This is the next revelation, the next chapter in your awakening. So do not stop here. Step with me into that deeper unveiling. Click now to watch my next teaching, where I will show you why certain souls return to you again and again, why some bonds cannot be cut until their full lesson is learned, and how to transform these karmic echoes into liberation instead of suffering. If this message has freed you today, the next will take you even further. Go now with my blessing. May your courage be strong enough to cut what must be cut. May your love be deep enough to release without hatred. May your devotion be steadfast enough to anchor in God's love. And may your freedom shine so brightly that others, seeing you, are guided to their own release. For you were not born to live chained. You were born to live free. And in that freedom, you will find God waiting, arms open, whispering, "At last, my child, you are mine."